Chapter 24. Mo Euro had just been promoted from a mistress. She was still at the height of her success, so Tongning decided to let her be proud for a few more days. After all, Tongning still had Mo Euro's trump card in her hands. Not only did she not want Mo Euro to be a model, she also wanted Mo Euro to be ashamed to be a person. Because she was being frozen, after filming HF's commercial, Tongning once again had some free time. However, she was not in a rush. Even though her fans were in an uproar, because she wanted to stand for a defective product, Tongning did not say a word as she endured the scolding from the public. She did not give a single response. Lin Wei had analyzed Tongning as a person, and also analyzed the way Tongning handled things in the past. She realized she was more patient than the average person, and could withstand loneliness better than the average person. The entertainment headlines were still about Han Yufan and Mo Euro's sexy video incident. Mo Euro was scolded and criticized in all sorts of ways, while Tongning's attitude towards her was split into two extremes. One group of fans sympathized with Tongning because they knew she was being suppressed by Tianyi and had no control over her commercial appearances. The other group of younger fans were questioning why Tongning hadn't taken the opportunity to leave Tianyi despite being under such restrictions. Amidst this complicated mix of emotions, a set of photos of Tongning's commercial shoot was exposed by a passerby. In an instant, the internet was reposted, and even praised Tongning's beauty and long legs. Numerous magazines also commented that even if Tongning was in a casual pose, it was still more natural than a professional pose. So with the three of them embroiled in scandals, Mo Euro and Han Yufan were completely shamed. Only Tongning, with a set of photos, made people forget that she had once been Mo Euro's body double, and that she had apologized for creating hype. All they could remember was the sad beauty of her crying in the photos. On the same day, Lin Wei received no less than 5 invitations from magazines. They all wanted Tongning to be on the cover of their next season's issue. In contrast to Mo Euro's miserable situation, Lin Wei suddenly admired Tongning from the bottom of her heart. It turned out she really did have the ability to turn the tables around. It was because Tongning's comeback was no longer something that Han Yufan could stop. So, faced with so many invitations, Han Yufan began to ponder whether or not he should hide Tongning from the public. Lin Wei explained the situation of the magazines to Han Yufan and analyzed what route Tongning could take. However, she was interrupted by Mo Euro, who was sitting in Han Yufan's office chair. Didn't I say long ago that Tongning wouldn't accept any jobs? Did you ignore my words? She hadn't even done anything with Han Yufan yet, but Mo Euro was already treating herself as the wife of the CEO. Lin Wei laughed coldly in her heart. Choosy fashion, Han Yufan said to Lin Wei as he picked the most influential one. Yufan, what did you just promise me? Babe, I'm doing this for your own good. Think about it. The netizens have been scolding me enough about the video. All Tongning has to do is step out and say that we broke up a long time ago. Then between you and I, there won't be any problems. We will just be a normal couple. That way, the netizens will know they were wrong and will feel more guilty and tolerant towards you. I am paving the way for you. Han Yufan explained to Mo Euro in seriousness. There isn't much time left until the top 10 model awards. This is the fastest way to clear your name. When the time comes and you make a comeback, will there still be a place for Tongning? Hearing this, Mo Euro's anger immediately dissipated. You sure are thoughtful. Han Yufan had no idea that Lin Wei had already been subdued by Tongning. The disgusting conversation between the two was heard by Lin Wei, word for word. These two want to use you to clear their name. What do you plan to do? Lin Wei was actually curious how Tongning would avoid being used by Han Yufan. Just help me reject them. If Han Yufan asks, just tell him I'm not feeling well, Tongning replied. Out of the 5 magazines, she had to choose one. While she was trying to stabilize her foundation, offending 4 in one go wasn't a good idea. Lin Wei understood immediately. She was extremely impressed by Tongning's ability to turn the situation around with little effort. She easily pushed away a hot potato. However, as soon as Mo Euro heard this, she was furious. She slammed her hand on the desk and yelled at Lin Wei. She's doing this on purpose. In that case, How cooperative does Miss Mo think a model that has been betrayed by her fiancé and is being frozen out should be? Hearing this, Han Yufan patted Mo Euro on the back comfortingly and instructed Lin Wei. Tell Tongning to come see me. I'm afraid not, she's not feeling well, Lin Wei replied. In that case, tell me where she is, I'll go see her. Let me ask Tongning for her opinion first. After speaking, Lin Wei turned around and gave Tongning a phone call. However, at this time, Mo Ting had just returned home and was currently watering the plants in the garden with Tongning in his arms. Lin Wei clearly expressed her opinion. Mo Ting was leaning against Tongning's ear, so he overheard their conversation. Afterwards, under the reflection of the setting sun, his ink-black eyes seemed to glow. He gave a playful smile as he leaned against Tongning's ear and said, Give your manager the address of Hyatt Regency. Tongning looked at him questioningly. Firstly, tell him you've moved. Plus, you are the heiress of the Tang family. Living in Hyatt Regency is more in line with your status. You are no longer someone he can match up to. Secondly, Hyatt Regency's security is tight. Did you think any Tom, Dick or Harry could come in? Huh. Tongning let out a gentle laugh. She realized Mo Ting wasn't as kind to outsiders as he was at home. But it just so happened that she liked it. So, she followed Mo Ting's suggestion and handed the address of Hyatt Regency to Lin Wei. As soon as Lin Wei heard this, she was shocked for a moment before repeating it to Han Yufan. Tongning said she's already moved. If you want to see her, you can go to Hyatt Regency. She's already moved there. Hyatt Regency, that was the famous villa district that everyone in Beijing knew about. It wasn't a place that a small-time celebrity could live in. So Mo Euro was extremely jealous. Her? She moved to Hyatt Regency? How is that possible? Has Miss Mo forgotten that she is the heiress of the Tang family? She simply moved to Hyatt Regency because she chose a living environment that suits her status. In other words, when Tongning was with Han Yufan in the past, she had always lowered her status and wronged herself. Since Han Yufan didn't know who she was, she would of course return to her original position and not hold back. This was a height that Mo Euro would never be able to reach. After all, birth determined everything. Meanwhile, Han Yufan felt even more upset. He thought about how Tongning was unwilling to give up anything when they were together. Yet, as soon as they broke up, she moved into Hyatt Regency. Chapter 25. Most importantly, the Tang family had previously announced that as long as Tongning broke up with him, she could return to the Tang family at any time. It seemed, Tongning had already made up with the Tang family. Han Yufan suddenly felt a sense of regret. Hyatt Regency. Being able to live there was already a symbol of status. It was a place many people dreamed of living in. If he had chosen Tongning, if he had held on a little longer and married her, would he have been able to live in the so-called Paradise Villa? In reality, Tongning had never contacted the Tang family, because she had walked out of the Tang family without hesitation, chose Han Yufan and gave up on her career. Now, no matter what, she had to rely on her own abilities to return to the top of the entertainment industry. Only then would she have the face to apologize to her grandfather. After hanging up the phone, Tongning picked up the watering can again. However, Mo Ting did not let her off the hook. He turned her face and kissed her passionately. Tongning really enjoyed kissing Mo Ting, because Mo Ting would always take care of her feelings no matter what. Coupled with his unique charm and presence, Tongning turned around and threw away the watering can. On the balcony that was filled with roses, she hugged Mo Ting tightly as her lips intertwined with his. Mo Ting pressed her against the cold wall and trapped her between his hands as he kissed her even more passionately. Tongning's face was bright red as she wrapped her arms around Mo Ting's waist. She could feel his burning hot body and the tightness he was trying to control. If you hold it in like this, won't your body hurt? Tongning asked Mo Ting in a quiet voice as her eyes sparkled like the stars. What should I do? I kiss you every day, but I still can't get enough. Mo Ting stretched out his hand and gently stroked Tongning's lips. It's like poison. It's addictive. Tongning froze for a moment. She took the opportunity to turn around and press Mo Ting against the wall. To me. Aren't you the same? I'm frustrated. The more I try to stop myself from thinking about you, the more I think about you. Especially when I think about the way you kiss me. Are you still able to resist not wanting me? I almost can't resist anymore. I want to have a taste of you. Mo Ting was a tall and strong man. Yet he was being teased by his wife against the wall. But he was enjoying it as he smiled charmingly. A good woman would never say something so flirtatious. A good man wouldn't flirt with his wife over and over again and not want her. Honey, are you blaming me for only going in half on our wedding night? When? Tongning leaned in close to Mo Ting's ear. Her voice was seductive and raspy. Once you're done. Mo Ting looked at his wife, at the usually gentle and quiet woman. It turned out, when she was seductive, she could make a man go crazy for her. Did this mean he had gained a better understanding of Tongning? So Mo Ting wrapped his arm around her waist and pressed her against his body, allowing her to feel his pain every second. I think about. The couple held their bottom line until the villa guard contacted Mo Ting's helper to tell him someone was looking for Tongning. Mo Ting tidied up her loose home clothes and smoothed out her long black hair. He then suggested, go upstairs and get changed. Let's go out in the latest sports car. Tongning understood what he meant. She kissed the side of his face and said, thank you, hubby, for your sponsorship. In reality, Han Yufan didn't want to come looking for Tongning. He didn't want to feel more and more regretful. Especially when he arrived at the entrance of Hyatt Regency and was told to wait outside. He realized he was nothing special. 10 minutes later, a bright red Ferrari drove out of the estate and stopped in front of Han Yufan. Originally, Han Yufan did not notice it was Tongning sitting in the car, because Tongning had never shown off in front of him. This was because Tongning had always been concerned about his pride. But now that she no longer needed to be concerned, Tongning could show off however she wanted. Tongning opened the top of the sports car and turned to look at Han Yufan. Why are you looking for me? Tongning. Han Yufan looked at the complete change in Tongning. His heart was upset. He never imagined, after leaving him, Tongning was living so well. Speak, Tongning said coldly. The agency has already accepted E-Style magazine for you, so you have no way of resisting. I don't care who you are or what your background is. You are still a model of Tianyi, and I am still your boss. For the sake of the agency's long-term development, I will arrange for my team to release a press release on your behalf. I will explain that we broke up a long time ago, and Euro was not a third party. Han Yufan wanted to use the fact that he was Tongning's boss to recover the damage to his pride caused by Tongning driving a limited edition sports car. Even if you are the heiress of the Tang family, if you want to accept endorsements, you will still need to listen to the agency's arrangements. Protecting the agency's reputation is your responsibility as an artist. But I've already told Lin Wei to reject everyone. Plus, I've already told the media that I'm not feeling well. Tongning, do you still have any respect for the agency? Han Yufan was once again angered by Tongning's decision. We no longer have anything to do with each other. Tianyi isn't a place where you can do whatever you want. Don't forget, when you first signed the contract, it was clearly stated that you would listen to the agency's arrangements. Are you planning to breach the contract? Whether or not she breached the contract, Tongning didn't care. But she couldn't let Han Yufan off easy, nor was she stupid enough to give him money. After all, she was asking for Han Yufan and Mo Euro to be destroyed. I've already rejected the magazine. There's no way I can contact them again. Tongning took a step back. But you can give me the press release that the team has prepared to clear Mo Euro's name. Next Wednesday, when I go on stage, I will directly say it to the public. There is a huge difference between a press release and one that I personally say. Han Yufan's expression softened as he nodded his head. That's the only way. But do you really want to help the agency clear their name? Han Yufan, although you are heartless towards me, I can't be heartless towards you. Tongning said in seriousness. I know Mo Euro has been pressuring you. That better be the case. After speaking, Han Yufan pulled open the car door and boarded the car. His figure quickly disappeared from Tongning's sight. He was afraid if he stayed a second longer, he would beg Tongning to change her mind. Tongning watched as Han Yufan drove off, The corners of her lips curved upwards. When Han Yufan ordered her to do something like this, how logical was he? Wasn't it enough that he had betrayed her? He even wanted to use her to clear their dirty relationship? Han Yufan, as a human, don't you know how to be embarrassed? Chapter 26. Reality proved. Not only did Han Yufan not feel embarrassed, he actually took it for granted. Early the next morning, Tianyi Entertainment and the event organizers released a press release informing fans of how to get their hands on tickets to Tangning's press conference on the day of the event. As soon as the press release was released, it was quickly followed by all sorts of criticism. Aha! Tangning still wants to attend this defective products event. Just how much money does she need? If she really goes, she will end up like this cheap product and become a fake model. Haha. I previously thought she would become a clean slate in the modeling industry. I must have been blind. From tomorrow onwards, Tangning will take your defective product and disappear from the public eye. Look at the comments, they are all scolding. And for Tangning to endure all the scolding and attend the event with a smile on her face, I give her full marks. From now on, you will become the female celebrity I hate the most in my heart. Tianyi Entertainment. Mo Euro sat in Han Yufan's office chair, watching Tangning being scolded. She was in a good mood. Tangning wanted to compete with her, but she didn't know her place. No matter how many signs of a comeback Tangning had, from tomorrow onwards, Tangning's career as a model would once again be cut short. In fact, it would be even worse than 3 years ago. When that time came, she would once again enjoy ridiculing Tangning. This was something she couldn't get from other people. At this moment, Tangning was also at Tianyi Entertainment. She was having a meeting for the event tomorrow. To be more specific, she was having a meeting to discuss what she was going to say at the event. Han Yufan handed the prepared script to Tangning and specially instructed, Tangning, tonight, memorize the script well. Tomorrow at the event, don't forget to mention it to the reporters. This is the biggest reason you are attending this event. Tangning looked at the script in her hands like she was watching a joke. When Han Yufan handed this to her, did he not feel the slightest bit ashamed? On the way home, Lin Wei drove while Long Jie and Tangning sat in the back seat. Long Jie pointed to the script angrily. Is Han Yufan messing with me? In order to clear Mo Euro's name, he is willing to go to any lengths. He doesn't have an ounce of humanity left in him. He doesn't care if he stabs you in the heart. Lin Wei looked at Tangning through the rearview mirror, but Tangning remained calm. Even someone like her, who had experienced ups and downs, and had seen through the entertainment industry, felt that Han Yufan was too heartless. But as the person in question, Tangning was completely unfathomable. Tangning, what do we do tomorrow? Lin Wei asked. I've prepared everything you asked me to. I've collected all the evidence, including the recording of Mo Euro repeatedly denying you the endorsement deal. Tomorrow, I will use this opportunity to announce my official comeback. Long Jie, I have complete trust in you. But you, Lin Wei, you don't need to say anything. You and I have been in the industry for too long, so our minds aren't always clear. But you have helped me see the right direction. Lin Wei replied in a challenging manner. Sell all the evidence to the largest media as an exclusive, and put it on the platform after I participate in the event. In the past, I only fought on a small scale. I was too gentle to those two jerks. From now on, they will get a taste of my fiercest revenge. Okay. Long Jie was so happy she almost jumped up. At the same time, Lin Wei's blood was boiling with excitement after hearing Tangning's words. After all, seeing Tangning being betrayed, humiliated and stepped on like this, any woman would feel angry. Coincidentally, Tangning's revenge was once again stepping on two jerks to achieve her own success. This kind of explosive method made Lin Wei and Long Jie's hearts burn. Lin Wei knew Tangning lived in Hyatt Regency, but she had no idea Tangning lived there with Mo Ting. Tangning still didn't trust her 100%. So after they arrived at their destination, Tangning asked Lin Wei to drive Long Jie home. By the time they stepped through the front door, Mo Ting had already finished work. His tall and slender figure was calmly lying on the sofa with his right arm over his eyes, blocking out the blinding lights. Tangning smiled gently, as she gently walked over to Mo Ting and sat down beside him. Her fingers slowly traced the outline of his strong muscles. "Why aren't you sleeping in bed? The company you will be supporting tomorrow, Hai Rui, has already sent out a lawyer's letter, accusing them of fraud." Mo Ting sat up and looked at Tongning. "The news will probably be leaked by tomorrow afternoon." "It's okay. I will only be standing in the morning," Tongning replied as she lay on Mo Ting's chest. Although Tongning didn't say it out loud, Mo Ting seemed to be able to read her mind and knew what she wanted to do tomorrow. Tongning also understood that if she did what she did tomorrow, the company wouldn't let her off so easily. So, Hai Rui, who never bothered to deal with small companies, decided to send out a lawyer's letter. "Hubby, thank you." "What are you thanking me for?" Mo Ting asked as he gently patted her back. "Thank you for understanding me and for protecting me." Mo Ting did not say a word as he lay down on Tongning's lap and placed his head on hers. "My eyes hurt from looking at documents during the day." "In that case, let me read it to you." Tongning picked up the English document that Mo Ting hadn't finished reading and read it to him in a professional manner. However, after reading it, she sighed. "Back then, Star King offered me such good conditions. But if I hadn't experienced these 3 years, how would I have met you? So God is still fair. He really left the best for me last. After terminating your contract with Tianyi, which agency do you want to join?" "It's still too early." Tongning shook her head. She didn't know how much she would recover her status by then, so she wasn't sure yet. "Sign with me. Hai Rui has plenty of models like me." Tongning admitted that joining Hai Rui wasn't a realistic option. Mo Ting smiled and did not continue the topic. His little wife obviously didn't understand what he meant. Signing with him didn't mean she would sign with Hai Rui. Signing with him didn't mean she would sign with Hai Rui. There wouldn't be a second contract in this world, because he was her one and only manager. However, he decided to leave this surprise for later. Although he was Tongning's husband, he still needed to see if Tongning was worthy of his efforts. As he wasn't used to seeing Tongning feel inferior, Mo Ting got up from her lap, hooked his arm around her neck and forcefully kissed her. "I won't allow you to belittle yourself. Actually, I know you're just looking for an excuse to kiss me." Tongning grabbed onto Mo Ting's warm hand and placed it on her chest. "I want you to go one step further." Chapter 27. The sensation was addictive. Mo Ting directly pushed Tongning onto the sofa and unbuttoned her white shirt. Underneath the shirt was the limitless beauty he had always been obsessed with. "Ting!" Tongning cried shyly. "It hurts a little." Mo Ting gave up on his invasion of her territory and returned to her lips. He twisted and turned as he sucked on her lips. The couple spent quite some time in the living room before Mo Ting finally let go of Tongning. "Tomorrow is very important for you. Sleep early tonight." With someone helping her bathe and someone drying her hair, all Tongning cared about was closing her eyes. So, she had been sleeping very well lately. All of this was, of course, thanks to Mo Ting. The next morning, Lin Wei and Long Jia arrived at Hyatt Regency to pick Tongning up. However, they never expected Han Yufan would personally show up. On the surface, he was there to cheer on his artist, but in reality, he was there to remind Tongning not to forget to clear Mo Yuro's name. "Have you memorized your script? Do you still remember what you were going to say on stage in a moment?" Han Yufan asked Tongning as they sat in the waiting room. "How could I forget?" Tongning's words had a double meaning. "Tongning, I know you are upset, but between you and I, it is all in the past. Don't hate Yuro because of this, she is innocent." It turned out for Han Yufan, ending a relationship only took a few days. "Am I not innocent?" Tongning asked Han Yufan. "These few years of my youth, all that I've done, is it worth nothing to you? Even a dog should know how to wag its tail at me." "Tongning, watch your words." Han Yufan yelled angrily. Han Yufan yelled at Tongning angrily. "This was consensual. I never asked you to treat me so well. You did this willingly." Tongning did not say another word as the makeup artist knocked on the waiting room door. Tongning didn't want to see Han Yufan again, so she quickly stood up and let the makeup artist in. Han Yufan was also quite angry as he turned around and walked out of the waiting room. But before he left, he reminded Lin Wei, "Keep an eye on Tongning, don't let her make any mistakes." I know, Lin Wei nodded. The event was scheduled to start at 9 a.m., and she appeared at 9:30 a.m. Usually, the merchants would start the event first, and then invite the guests on stage. At this moment, the event had already begun, and Tongning was ready. She was dressed in a deep silver V-neck dress and her soft, curly hair was pinned to one side. It wasn't anything eye-catching, but Tongning was a natural clothes rack. Whatever she wore, it complemented her clothes and made her look extraordinary. Tongning, get ready, we're about to go on stage, Lin Wei reminded nervously. Tongning, don't be afraid. We are still behind you, Long Jia comforted. Tongning nodded. Why should she be afraid? Today was her first battle with Tianyi. At this moment, apart from wanting to win, she also needed to remain calm. Let's go. Lin Wei escorted Tongning out of the waiting room. The venue wasn't big. There were only 200 seats. But Tongning knew, plenty of people were paying attention to her through their screens. Their aim was to see her stand up for a low-class business and find something to complain about. Unfortunately, they were about to be disappointed. Following the host's call, Lin Wei pushed Tongning to the front of the stage. It had been a long time since she had been in the spotlight, so Tongning was a little uncomfortable. Our Tongning indeed has a pair of mesmerizing long legs. Come, let our Tongning greet everyone first. Tongning took the microphone from the host and said calmly to the audience of less than 200 people, Hello, I am Tongning. Welcome Tongning, we are also honored to have you here. We all know that your popularity has been on the rise recently. Thank you for coming here today to support us. May I ask you a question? The host tried his best to liven up the atmosphere. Go ahead. I believe you have used our products before. Can you tell us how you feel about our products? The host went straight to the point. Have you used it before? Tongning slightly furrowed her brows. And at this moment, the people who were watching the live broadcast immediately exploded. They all came out to express their opinions. Stupid wild model, if you recommend this kind of defective product, you're finished. I just photoshopped a gif of Tongning's. Does anyone want to take a look? I wonder how many people will be tricked this time. Tongning, why are you helping the evildoer? Tongning knew at this moment, the internet would be filled with scolding. So, after she found a topic, she glanced at Han Yufan, Lin Wei and Long Jia who were standing below the stage. Afterwards, she found the biggest camera in the hall and spoke in a serious tone. Firstly, I would like to thank my management agency, Tianyi Entertainment, for allowing me to accept a product that I've never even heard of. Secondly, although I was forced to stand in front of the stage, as a model, I have a firm attitude towards products that are not trusted by consumers. I am also one of the people who oppose products that are not trusted by consumers. So, I have never used this product. Lastly, I would like to thank everyone for watching me. Although I, Tongning, am past my prime, I will never lose my bottom line. Tongning spoke these 3 simple sentences so quickly that no one could react. By the time everyone realized her change in attitude, Tongning had already said her next sentence. I, Tongning, would like to use this stage today to announce to everyone that I am officially making a comeback. In a moment, I will reveal even more information to everyone. Thank you for your support. After speaking, while everyone was still in a daze, Tongning bowed to them and gracefully exited the stage. The atmosphere froze. Han Yufan's expression changed while Lin Wei and Long Jia secretly cheered from below the stage. The internet was in an uproar. Oh God, what did Tongning just say? I didn't hear it clearly. I need to go back and listen again. How could she be so handsome? Me too, me too. I was just about to curse out loud when she did this. My face is swollen from being slapped in the face. Who else would dare to slap their management agency and business partner in the face at an event, apart from Tongning? Handsome, handsome, handsome. Tongning is so handsome that my face is covered in blood. She has announced her comeback. From now on the eyes will be in for a treat. Ha ha ha. I saw that the presenter was stunned. Tongning is mighty. I am so touched. I didn't misjudge Tongning. From now on, I will only acknowledge her as a model. The internet was filled with cheers. Not only from fans, but also from internet celebrities. They turned Tongning's short 1 to 2 minute speech into a video and circulated it everywhere. In an instant, all the negative news about Tongning was swept away, leaving no trace behind. However, after stepping down from the stage, Tongning did not have it easy. Han Yufan and her business partner came looking for trouble. Tongning, is there something wrong with your brain? You are just a small model. How dare you make a scene in front of everyone? The man pointed at Tongning and scolded. Are you tired of living? You're treating our event as your press conference, aren't you? Chapter 28. Tongning, I'm warning you. If you still want to survive in this industry, you better apologize to me immediately. Otherwise, I will make you regret ever being born into this world. The representative of Tongning's business partner yelled at Tongning in anger and arrogance. Tongning let out a gentle laugh. Her expression was calm, like she had just seen a joke. I've already said what I wanted to say. How could I apologize? Plus, if I apologize, who is going to apologize to the consumers? If you don't come out and apologize, we will have no choice but to use special methods, the representative warned in a sinister manner. After speaking, he glanced at the security guards who were maintaining order. Receiving his signal, the security guards immediately walked over to Tongning. Seeing this, Long Jie and Lin Wei immediately formed a human wall in front of Tongning. Long Jie pointed at the representative and asked angrily, "What are you trying to do?" Han Yufan's face had long turned pale. Originally, he didn't want to work with a company like this, but he was in too much of a rush to clear Mo Yuro's name. So he didn't put up any defenses against Tongning. An outdated model actually announced her comeback? Did Tongning really think that after leaving him, she could start all over again? Han Yufan sneered on the inside as he grabbed onto Tongning and pushed her to one side. Tongning, I know you hate me, but by doing this, you are not harming Yuro. You are harming yourself. For a model that broke the rules of the industry, no matter how virtuous you are, no one will ever hire you again. Really? Tongning gently raised her eyebrows. Not necessarily. I don't care why you are doing this. I don't care how jealous you are of Yuro. Now that your event has been ruined, you will explain to the business partners and pay for the breach of contract. Don't even think about letting Tianyi Entertainment take the blame for you. Han Yufan ruthlessly scolded Tongning. Also, regarding Yuro's clearing her name, since you refused to cooperate, I can only use the company's name to release a PR statement. When the time comes, if anyone tries to slander you, you better bear with it. President Han, it seems you didn't understand what I just said. What I meant when I announced my comeback was that I will abide by the terms of the contract and enjoy the benefits that I deserve. At this moment, Tongning's gaze was icy cold. There was no longer any warmth in her eyes. She only felt disgust towards the man in front of her. President Han, don't worry. My lawyer will be arriving this afternoon. He will explain everything to you one by one. Our contract states that I should have enjoyed all these years but never did. Seeing Tongning like this, Han Yufan was shocked. He never imagined Tongning would have such a side to her. She would be so aggressive that she could force people into speechlessness. No, she was just stimulated. Han Yufan comforted himself in his heart. How could a woman who had always been weak suddenly become so strong? She's just trying to attract my attention, Han Yufan told himself. Tongning, do you really have to go this far? Why can't you just let her go? Because of Tongning's sudden situation, the scene was still in chaos. Seeing the two couldn't come to a conclusion, the event manager impatiently approached them and said to Tongning in a fierce tone, "If you don't give us a satisfactory explanation today, don't even think about leaving this place. Tongning, don't force us to make a move." The atmosphere suddenly became tense, but Han Yufan simply watched on coldly. He had no intention of helping Tongning, because he wanted her to know the consequences of betraying him weren't good. However, he had never considered the fact that he was the one who betrayed her in the first place. Long Jie anxiously protected Tongning as she watched the three bodyguards approach them. Actually, in the industry, there were many artists that had been hurt because of their low status. Long Jie simply hated the fact that she wasn't a man. Seeing that they had no way out, the other party's eyes were already filled with contempt, as if they couldn't escape even if they had wings. But at this moment, there was a loud bang, and the door of the lounge was suddenly kicked open. A man carrying a briefcase entered the room with 3 to 4 security guards. He scanned the room and asked, "Who is the person in charge? May I ask who you are?" The business partner's representative approached. "I am a lawyer from Hai Rui Entertainment. My surname is Chiao." The lawyer replied without a smile. He then pulled out a lawyer's letter from his briefcase and handed it to the person in charge of the event. "The advertisement that you filmed last month illegally used a photo of one of our artists. This is a serious violation of Hai Rui Entertainment's interests. This is our lawyer's letter. We are confident that we will sue you until you go bankrupt." After speaking, the lawyer elegantly walked out of the room, leaving the security guards behind. His motive was simple: he wanted to protect Tongning. The business partner's representative felt like he had just received a bomb. His hands couldn't help but tremble. He had never imagined he would provoke the entertainment empire that was Hai Rui. It wasn't uncommon for small companies to take advantage of a large company's popularity. But he had never seen Hai Rui cause trouble for a small company. Was it really because their luck was too bad? Others might not know the reason. But Tongning was well aware that Mo Ting was looking for an opportunity to get revenge for her. Who couldn't he offend? Why did he have to offend his little wife? Long Jie laughed with a deeper meaning. Who knew how long Mo Ting had already sent people to ambush a small company like this? Yet he had arrived at such a timely time. It was obvious how much he cared about Tongning. At this moment, the business partner was no longer in the mood to care about what Tongning had said at the event. He knew deep down provoking Hai Rui meant death. Han Yufan was also shocked by the sudden turn of events. In order not to be implicated, he immediately left the room. His cowardly expression made even Lin Wei look at him with disdain. "Tongning, let's go." As her motive had already been achieved, Lin Wei treated everything that had just happened as luck. She knew luck was the most important thing in the industry, and Tongning was obviously someone blessed by fate. Announcing her comeback was the same as starting anew. But Tongning firmly believed as long as she had faith, she could return to the status she had 3 years ago, and even surpass it. The internet was filled with cheers. Tongning's name seemed to have come back to life, and was given an even more mysterious name. Long Jie excitedly read out the comments to Tongning as she smiled brightly. I can imagine Mo Yuro's nose must be twisted in anger. She must be thinking that Tongning's mistake just now was equivalent to destroying her own future. Plus, she can say a lot of bad things about you in front of Han Yufan. She might even take the opportunity to ask Han Yufan to punish you. Tongning didn't mind Long Ji's teasing. She simply turned to ask Lin Wei, who was driving. Have you arranged the contents of the scandal? Of course, it will be spectacular, Lin Wei replied. Chapter 29. What kind of lousy company is Tianyi? How could they force Tongning to attend an event like that? The boss is stupid. Exactly. Tianyi doesn't know how to plan their artists, so let us do it. Even primary school students can do better than them. Tongning, I will buy whatever you endorse next. Who told me to have money? Tongning, leave Tianyi, you deserve better. Tongning, we are about to cry because of your handsomeness. Seeing the one-sided comments online, Mo Euro angrily threw the TV remote control to one side. She never imagined Tongning would use such a method to please the public. Not only was she protesting the company's unfair treatment towards her, she was also taking the opportunity to express her disdain for a defective product like Tongning. Mo Euro scoffed. The uncontrollable Tongning was becoming less and less popular with her. Most importantly, Tongning actually announced her comeback? An outdated model actually announced her comeback in such a high-profile manner? Mo Euro laughed evilly. As long as Tongning was still in Tianyi, this would never happen. Mo Euro could lose on her territory, but no one could win. At this time, Han Yufan pushed open the door and entered the office. Seeing Mo Euro sitting in her chair, he removed his suit jacket and stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window with his hands on his hips. His dissatisfaction towards Tongning had reached its peak. Yufan, why don't you think of a way to release a statement to clarify? Tongning has already pushed all the blame onto us. What does she mean by thanking the company for arranging an event for her that she had no idea about? Tongning did not know about it and did not receive the respect she deserved. But Emo did not realize this. All she knew was, as long as there was an opportunity to step on Tongning, she would not hold back. Yufan, release a statement. Tell everyone that Tongning did this on her own to make money, and the company has nothing to do with it. Han Yufan was exceptionally angry. Because of Tongning, the entire company had been tarnished. So, he immediately called his PR team to compile a statement that was heartfelt and emotional. In the statement, he emphasized that the event was not arranged by the company for Tongning, but was done of her own free will. He directly accused Tongning of lying. He even mentioned the highest punishment the company could give Tongning. After all, Tongning had ruined the company's reputation and messed up the event. He insinuated that Tongning was past her prime and made the company take the blame for her, when in reality, most of the time, it was her own actions. From Tiany's statement, everyone could tell that Tiany Entertainment wanted to freeze Tongning. Their relationship with Tongning was completely at odds with each other. Not only that, Han Yufan even arranged for a representative from the company to come out for interviews. Oh, you're talking about Tongning? There's nothing much to say. She's just different from how you see her. She's quite a hypocrite. To be honest, I feel like the agency has been wrong this time. Everyone in the agency knows that Tongning lied this time. I don't want to have Tiany of Tiany, Tiany Entertainment of Tiany. These 3 sentences came from Tiany's lower-level staff, higher-level staff, and successful people in the entertainment industry who had a good relationship with Tiany. It seemed they were planning to throw all the blame on Tongning without giving her any chance to turn the tables. As usual, Tongning was the quiet type. No matter how the company tried to slander her, she would not step out to defend herself. However, Han Yufan underestimated Tongning's boycott of substandard products. Although there were still people that fell into Han Yufan's trap, Tongning's popularity today could not be compared to yesterday. She was like a mountain, rising rapidly in all sorts of ways. Just as Tiany Entertainment was spreading rumors about Tongning being despicable and embarrassing the company, an authoritative media outlet suddenly released a few audio clips. After listening to them, people realized Tiany Entertainment was a black-hearted company. Not only did they deliberately freeze Tongning, they even arranged for her to do such a lowly event. They made Tongning a substitute, a scapegoat, and humiliated by the netizens. Yet, Tiany Entertainment refused to stop. Most surprisingly, the netizens recognized the voice of the person that ordered others not to accept any work for Tongning. It was the mistress model, Emo. The netizens seemed to have understood everything. However, there were still people that questioned the source of the audio clip. It didn't matter. Another hour later, Tongning's manager, Lin Wei's email was exposed. People from all walks of life tried to work with Tongning, but in the end, they were all rejected. Lin Wei shouted from afar that Emo was arrogant, bullying her artists, and toying with the company's operations. Compared to Tiany Entertainment's empty claims, Tongning directly presented the most direct evidence. This was the information she promised to reveal when she announced her comeback. Oh God, I can't believe Han Yufan is such a jerk. Even at death's door, he still wants to drag Tongning down with him. How can Tiany Entertainment be so disgusting? It's bad enough that they mistreated their models, but after using Tongning, they got rid of her after she was no longer of use. I've never seen such a shameless entertainment company. Doesn't that mean those that spoke up for Tiany Entertainment this morning have all been slapped in the face? Did the entire company gang up on one woman? Tiany Entertainment, get out of the entertainment industry. This time, as soon as the news was released, there was no need for Tongning to say anything. It was clear who was in the right and who was in the wrong. Tiany Entertainment and Emo once again went further down the road of death. As for Tongning's popularity, after this incident, it once again rose to an unbelievable level. All sorts of advertisers requested to cancel their contracts with Tiany Entertainment. It even affected the careers of other Tiany artists. They all pressed the pause button for endorsements. Han Yufan looked at the overwhelming comments online and knew there was no turning back this time. After careful consideration, he finally picked up his phone and gave Tongning a phone call. Tongning, Do you really want me to die? Will you only be satisfied if you destroy me? Tongning sat at home, satisfied with the news. My lawyer is already on his way. Han Yufan, it's time to settle the contract. Tongning, you can't do this. If you do this, Tianyi will be completely destroyed. Han Yufan was finally anxious. Compared to everything you and Mo Euro have done to me, I have only returned you 1%. Han Yufan, as long as you kick Mo Euro out of Tianyi Entertainment, who knows? I might go easy on you. Tongning said calmly into the phone. Is this your motive? Han Yufan was about to go crazy with anger. I'm telling you, I will fight you to the end. In that case, let's give it a try. After speaking, Tongning hung up the phone. Although her popularity had recovered, it didn't mean Mo Euro didn't have a chance. There was still a good show to come. On the way home from work, Mo Ting looked at the day's headlines. The admiration in his eyes grew stronger. Even Lu Che couldn't help but praise Tongning. The madam is amazing. In a moment, stop the car and buy her a bouquet of flowers to congratulate her on her comeback. Mo Ting instructed. I want red roses. Understood, President. Lu Che nodded. With such a good atmosphere, amongst the red roses, there had to be a Durex. Chapter 30. After Tongning's scandal was released, Tianyi and Mo Euro received the most severe criticism they had ever received from the public. This was the biggest crisis Han Yufan had ever experienced since he founded Tianyi. So his hatred and disgust towards Tongning was not just a thought in his heart. The company's higher-ups immediately called for an emergency meeting. Han Yufan even called his sister overseas for help. Yufan, I've already seen the news. Tongning's evidence is conclusive. This incident was indeed your fault for not keeping a low profile and allowing others to use it against you. But don't get caught up in the matters of your lower half. You need to know how to judge the situation. You need to be clear. You are the boss of the company. No matter how popular Tongning is, she is still just a model. Her fate is in your hands. Then sis, what should I do now? Han Yufan was already confused by Tongning and Mo Euro. First of all, release a PR statement and sincerely apologize. From now on, you will give Tongning the respect and treatment she deserves to appease the angry netizens. Secondly, support Tongning. But Euro will never agree, Han Yufan said with a headache. I'm not asking you to give up on Mo Euro. I happen to have an overseas magazine that is looking for 2 Asian models. Arrange for Tongning and Mo Euro to participate in the shoot together. This will prove that their relationship isn't as bad as the public thinks. Plus, with the two of them together, there will definitely be a lot of discussion. Although this magazine isn't a big brand, at least it has international connections. This will help Mo Euro aim for the top 10 model awards. You are using Tongning's popularity to boost Euro's success. Yufan, remember, a crisis is also an opportunity. As long as you take advantage of this, Tianyi's reputation will definitely rise. Hearing Han Ruoshua's reminder, Han Yufan was immediately enlightened. Indeed, the older the wiser. Sis, I understand. Tongning has been with you for so many years. For her to suddenly have so many moves, you must have crossed the line. If you want to cheat, I have no problem with that. There aren't many clean people in the entertainment industry, and I don't expect you to be honest. But why did you let Tongning find out? If you weren't my brother and Mo Euro wasn't pregnant with your child, I would have left you to fend for yourself, Han Ruoshua lectured. Han Ruoshua fiercely lectured. Perfect. This time let them share the stage and let them grind each other down. Mo Euro is relying on your attitude. That's why she dares to be so arrogant and despotic. Sis, she has a child in her stomach. I'm just afraid she'll be agitated. By the way, Sheener is about to undergo a kidney transplant. Previously, only Tongning was a perfect match. After what you've done, would she still be willing to remove a kidney to save our Sheener? Han Yufan froze. He had almost forgotten about this matter. The Han family had a total of 3 children. The eldest, Han Ruoshua, was a famous manager in the industry. However, she was later poached by a famous overseas company and stayed in the US for 3 years. Han Yufan was the second child and was single-handedly brought into the entertainment industry by Han Ruoshua. The third child, Han Sheener, had a weak kidney and was still young, so she spent most of her time in the hospital. Sis, no matter what happens between Tongning and I, since she promised to save Sheener, I won't let her regret it. Han Ruoxua scoffed and hung up the phone. She was both angry and helpless towards this brother of hers. Afterwards, Han Yufan immediately instructed his team to release a press release, admitting that they had treated Tongning harshly. They promised to sincerely change for the better and take good care of Tongning from now on. They also asked Tongning and her fans to give Tianyi another chance. At the same time, Tianyi released news that they had received an invitation from the overseas magazine, Secret. They would be inviting Tongning and Mo Euro to participate in a magazine shoot together. As soon as this news was released, the public was once again in an uproar. Just as Han Ruoxua predicted, the two were obviously enemies and were fighting over the same man. They were competitors. Yet Han Yufan actually placed the two models together? Oh God. Although Tongning's popularity had risen, she had, after all, been a body double for Mo Euro. Although Mo Euro's career had been smooth sailing, she was still a B-grade model and had no way of becoming a true A-lister. Fans from both sides immediately erupted into a war of words. Was Tongning more professional, or was Mo Euro more attention-grabbing? The entertainment industry was a place like this. The focus could change at any time. Of course, Tongning's original motive was to get rid of Tianyi's manipulation and expose herself to the light, preventing Mo Euro from interfering. Now that Han Yufan had placed her in the same position as Mo Euro, her motive had been achieved. Tongning, are you going to accept this magazine? Lin Wei asked Tongning over the phone. Han Yufan had made it seem like he valued Tongning and arranged for her to appear in an overseas magazine. If Tongning were to reject it, it would seem like she wasn't magnanimous enough. Although Han Yufan has never asked for your opinion, if you have other thoughts, we can think of a way. I'll accept. Tongning's one word was straightforward and direct. Okay, I understand. You can be on the same stage as Mo Euro, and let the public have a good look at you. At most, Mo Euro will be your background. Lin Wei replied. Tomorrow morning, the company will have a meeting to discuss. Tomorrow morning, I will go pick up Long Jie first and then come pick you up. Okay. Tongning nodded. Lin Wei was finally getting into the swing of things. Tongning hung up the phone and continued to work as a kitchen maid, although Mo Ting wouldn't allow it. She had never thought of herself as pampered. Cooking for her husband was a natural thing to do. As soon as Mo Ting returned home, he found Tongning busy in the kitchen. He walked over to her from behind, lifted her in his arms and placed her on the kitchen counter. Do you know the consequences of not listening to me? Tongning hooked her arms around Mo Ting's neck and swung her legs. Don't tell me. You're going to eat me? You don't know what's good for you. Mo Ting commented as he carried her into the living room and placed her on the sofa. Today is your comeback day, so leave cooking to me. Tongning tilted her head and nodded her head. She then removed the apron from her body and put it on Mo Ting. Mo Ting was tall, and his body was well built. Especially when he was wearing a shirt, the soft fabric clung tightly to his chest, revealing his slightly visible abs. Tongning couldn't take her eyes off him. She watched as the man's hands moved up and down. He was calm and experienced. Handling the ingredients was just like his personality, direct and efficient, never sloppily. The elegant man was like a painting. Tongning held on to her heartbeat as she returned to the bedroom. She found a bouquet of red roses on the large bed in their bridal room. Tongning excitedly picked it up and took a sniff. However, she noticed there was a small package in the middle of the bouquet. She curiously took it out and looked at it. Her face suddenly turned red. Could it be that Mo Ting had decided to do it with her tonight? Was she going to show that she knew about the existence of Durex? Or was she going to pretend she didn't see anything? Chapter 31. A little while later, Mo Ting finished preparing dinner and headed upstairs. As he pushed open the door, he saw Tongning sitting on the bed holding a bouquet of roses. She was counting how many roses she had. Her cheeks were flushed red and her lips were moving. She looked extremely alluring. This is the first time I've received so many flowers, Tongning exclaimed in surprise. Mo Ting, I'm really surprised. Mo Ting looked at the satisfied look on her face as he crossed his arms and looked down at her. Why are you so easy to take care of? Just a few flowers are enough to make you so happy. I have so many things that I want to give you. But you've never told me what you want. Why can't you be like other women and ask for diamonds and jewelry? Or perhaps you want fame and success? Tongning let out a gentle laugh as she lifted her head and looked at Mo Ting. I already want your entire body. Am I not greedy enough? I want your marriage. I want the title of your wife. I want half of your wealth. And I want the rest of your life. Jewelry? Success? I can fight for all of these myself. Plus, is there anything more precious than you? Mo Ting's heart skipped a beat as he leaned over and kissed Tongning. Your mouth is too sweet. I can't help but want to eat it. Tongning wrapped her arms around Mo Ting's shoulders and responded to his passionate kiss. As their lips and teeth intertwined, the couple couldn't help but fall onto the bed. Tongning was already under Mo Ting's body as he undid her top and threw it on the floor. All of this happened in a matter of seconds. Tongning couldn't help but want more as she reached out her hands to unbutton Mo Ting's shirt. Seeing his tanned skin exposed in front of her, Tongning's cheeks turned red as she awkwardly moved to the side. Mo Ting let out a gentle laugh as he grabbed onto Tongning's neck and turned to look at her. He then asked in a gentle voice, Do you want it? What about you? Tongning asked back. You know what I'm waiting for, Tongning. As long as you say you like me, I can. Mo Ting leaned in and whispered in her ear. I can make it so that you won't be able to get out of bed for an entire night. Tongning understood what he was referring to, so she replied nervously, I'm not completely sure what my heart is like. But, I want to spend the rest of my life with you, Mo Ting. Their relationship was slowly improving. It was only a matter of time before they merged into each other's souls. So, Mo Ting did not let her off the hook like he usually did. Instead, he tangled with her to give her the happiness she deserved. Sometimes, when it came to matters like this, there were many ways to satisfy the other party. After being intimate for a while, they hugged each other tightly. Tongning leaned against Mo Ting's chest and said in an unhappy tone, I saw you bought. That kind of thing. I thought you. What is it? Mo Ting supported his head with his right hand as he gently stroked Tongning's back with his left. Tongning pulled out the Durex condom from under her pillow and showed it to Mo Ting. This is it. I thought you were ready to have me. I even took a bath. How embarrassing. Mo Ting looked at the little thing and furrowed his brows. Am I only this size? This Lu Che. You're still talking. It's not embarrassing. Mo Ting chuckled as the corners of his lips curved upwards. I'm charmed by your reaction. Don't say any more. Tongning buried herself in the blankets. Mo Ting quickly hugged his wife and comforted her. Okay, let's get down to business. You've already accepted a shoot for Secret magazine, right? What's wrong? Tongning finally poked her head out. Are you afraid I'll lose to Mo? If you are going to the US for a shoot, let me know as soon as your schedule is confirmed. Mo Ting said mysteriously. What are you planning to do? Tongning asked curiously. Coincidentally, she had previously mentioned that she wanted to buy insurance for her legs. If she went to the US, she could find the most professional insurance company. Didn't we agree on this? Once we step out of this door, you will be the boss of the entertainment industry, and I will be a model for a small company. You can't interfere with me. Mrs. Mo, have I ever interfered with you? Although Tongning had been framed by Tianyi, and he was heartbroken that he had wanted to destroy Tianyi Entertainment on multiple occasions, Tongning didn't like it, so he didn't act rashly. Otherwise, he could easily crush Han Yufan to death in the blink of an eye. Tongning understood Mo Ting respected her enough, so she treasured every day she spent with Mo Ting even more. Han Yufan wants to use my popularity to raise Mo Euro's status. That's why he tied us together. This way, I won't be able to do anything to her. But, Mo Ting finished her sentence. With your ability, even if the two of you appeared on the cover of a magazine, you could still turn her into a tool. You trust me that much? Tongning asked. I do. Tongning was satisfied as she leaned into Mo Ting's embrace and fell asleep. At this time, Mo Ting gave Lu Che a phone call, find out Secret's schedule. I want to know when Tongning will be going overseas. Also, make some time for me and book the best hotel. While you're at it, make an appointment with the best insurance company in the US. The next morning, Tongning arrived at Tianyi with Lin Wei and Long Jia. At the same time, Mo Euro's assistant also walked through the front door with the same imposing manner as before. As soon as the staff saw Mo Euro, they all greeted her politely. However, when it came to Tongning, they were very casual and even chose to ignore her. Mo Euro looked at Tongning and then at Lin Wei. Tongning, you should be careful when dealing with someone that would betray their former employer. I've even seen a mistress that stole someone else's fiancé. Why would I be afraid of a manager that would betray her former employer? Tongning laughed. I admit, you are quite popular right now, but no matter how popular you are, you still need to be my background. Didn't Yufan tell you? Secret's shoot is to create hype for my top 10 model awards. In that case, I'll have to wish you all the best. After speaking, Tongning looked around and said to all the staff, Yesterday, my lawyer and Han Yufan discussed the contract. Tianyi has agreed to give me the treatment I deserve. Mo Euro and I are both Tianyi's models. So, when you see me, you can do as you please. From now on, if anyone shows me respect, I will show them the same respect. Tongning's words were neither servile nor overbearing. They were firm and powerful. It made the staff that previously thought Tongning was transparent immediately realize this woman was no longer someone they could afford to offend. So they immediately reacted and greeted Tongning politely. Their voices were even louder than when they greeted Mo Euro earlier. Satisfied, Tongning lifted her leg and walked in front of Mo Euro. To serve as a foil to Mo Euro? Dream on. Chapter 32. 9 a.m. Tianyi Entertainment's meeting room. Han Yufan made a brief schedule for Mo Euro and Tongning's upcoming shoot in the US. Han Yufan sat at the head of the table, while Tongning and Mo Euro sat on his left and right respectively. The only difference was their statuses had changed. Mo Euro, the mistress, had successfully taken the seat and pushed the original wife to one side. She even shamelessly exchanged glances with Han Yufan at the meeting table. Even the staff present couldn't stand it any longer. Lin Wei turned her head to look at Tongning, although it was difficult to see her expression through the projector. Lin Wei could sense that Tongning had completely blocked out Mo Euro and Han Yufan. This was what Lin Wei admired about Tongning. No matter how upset she was, she would never let others see through her emotions, and would never give others an opportunity to humiliate her. For this shoot, I will personally take you to the US. I have also arranged for a translator to accompany you. As we will be spending a few days together, you should get used to each other in advance, in case it affects your work progress. As Han Yufan spoke, he handed over Secret's information to the two. Secret was established 20 years ago, and was once very popular in the US. Although they have shown signs of decline over the years, their influence cannot be underestimated. This time, they have invited Asian models to take advantage of the Oriental trend to make a comeback. So, your task is very difficult. Euro has a more accurate grasp of fashion. So, Tongning, you should listen to her opinion and let her be the leader. As soon as these words left his mouth, everyone in the meeting room understood. Han Yufan wanted Tongning to be his assistant and serve as a foil to Mo Euro. Long Jia looked at Mo Euro's raised eyebrows and gritted her teeth in anger. Yufan, don't worry, I won't let you down. Tongning had nothing to say. She simply stood up and said to Lin Wei and Long Jia, let's go. Tongning, what do you mean? Tongning turned around and glared at Han Yufan. Han Yufan, don't tell me you think my tolerance is going to last forever? Everyone knows, with Mo Euro's reputation as a mistress, getting a job is harder than reaching the heavens. She wants to use my name and my popularity to serve as her foil? Is she worthy? Tongning. Mo Euro yelled angrily. I dare you to say that again. If you're so capable, why don't you go alone? After speaking, Tongning turned around to leave with Lin Wei and Long Jia. However, Han Yufan held back his anger and stopped her. Wait, what's the matter? We can discuss it. In the past, I was too easy to negotiate with. That's why jerks and cheap women stepped all over me. Han Yufan, you are well aware of the importance of this shoot in the US. Although you pretend to be calm. If I don't cooperate, I refuse to believe that you won't panic. Whether you want me to do it, it's up to you. After all, it's not the first time you've shelved me. Let your Emoyuro do it. As soon as Tongning finished speaking, Long Jie almost clapped and cheered. Lin Wei couldn't help but laugh. Was she still dreaming of bullying Tongning? Quickly wake up. Also, whether or not Emoyuro's fashion sense is better than mine has yet to be proven. But, Han Yufan, remember, even though my status no longer exists, I am still the only person in Tianyi Entertainment that has filmed a blockbuster. She is just an average B-grade model. Are you sure you are clear-headed enough to go to the US to be the vanguard? Of course, she is a B-grade model that needs a translator. Tongning, I am going to tear your mouth apart. Emoyuro was so angry she jumped up and slammed her hands on the table, glaring at Han Yufan. Euro, Tongning is right. This time listen to her. Although Han Yufan was angry, for the sake of the bigger picture, he had no choice but to endure. Once Tianyi Entertainment made a comeback, he refused to believe that he wouldn't be able to deal with Tongning. I don't want to. Emoyuro rejected angrily. It's decided, there's no room for you to argue. Tongning sneered as she revealed the side of her face for everyone to see. From this angle, Han Yufan realized Tongning had completely changed. She was clear-headed, calm and no longer did things with him at the center. This made Han Yufan feel a huge difference. Tongning was no longer the Tongning from before. This made him feel strangely annoyed. Inside the meeting room, the relevant staff quickly dispersed. Meanwhile, Emoyuro continued to throw a tantrum as she smashed things on the floor. Han Yufan, I've had enough. Why should I listen to Tongning? Didn't you say the shoot was for me? I don't see any signs of it being for me. That's enough. Han Yufan lost his temper. When are you going to be a little more sensible? If Tongning doesn't participate in the shoot, don't even think about getting into the top 10 model awards. Think about it yourself. Emoyuro was stunned. When had Han Yufan ever yelled at her like this? So, she held onto her stomach and began to cry. Han Yufan, do you know I am pregnant with your child? If it wasn't because you are pregnant, I wouldn't have had to personally go to the US. Everything I do is for you. Why can't you control your temper? Why are you always dragging me down? After speaking, Han Yufan left the meeting room, leaving Emoyuro and her assistant behind. Euro, President Han is right. You've already stolen President Han. This is a crucial moment, you just need to endure it. Once you make a comeback and your reputation is restored, we won't have to be afraid of Tongning, her assistant advised carefully. Be a good girl, don't get angry and harm your body. If that happens, you will lose more than you gain. Tongning, I really want to see if you are a has-been model or if I, Emoyuro, am better. Emoyuro listened to her assistant's advice and temporarily swallowed her anger at Tongning's humiliation. Right now, Emoyuro must be throwing a tantrum in the meeting room, pointing at Han Yufan's nose and cursing him for not being the main character. Long Jie guessed Emoyuro's expression. On the way home, she mimicked Emoyuro's expression. However, Tongning, you are becoming more and more temperamental. The words you said just now were so satisfying. It felt so good. Lin Wei also laughed. Tongning, I never expected you to be so explosive. I entered the industry when I was 17 and became Beijing's #1 model when I was 23. Now 9 years have passed. In this industry, is there anything I don't understand? That's why I once thought a lover and marriage were the only things I could rely on. But now, I understand, I can rely on myself. Of course, this didn't include Mo Ting, who was supporting her. Not necessarily. Some people have been in the industry for their entire lives, yet they are still muddle-headed. That's because they haven't been hurt or betrayed. Tongning hinted. Regardless, you guys should go home and pack your luggage. Prepare to fly to the US tomorrow. Chapter 33. After reminding Lin Wei and Long Jie, Tongning remembered Mo Ting's instructions. As soon as she received her schedule, she was to report it to him. So Tongning immediately sent Mo Ting the information. Although she didn't know what Mo Ting wanted to do, she was certain he would never hurt her. After seeing Tongning's schedule, Ting immediately asked Lu Che to check Tongning's flight number. He then stood in front of Hai Rui's large floor-to-ceiling window and gave Tongning a phone call. Ning. Ah. Tongning lowered her head and replied with a simple word. Lin Wei was still in the car. As for Tongning, she hadn't completely trusted Lin Wei yet, so she was still cautious. However, hearing Ting call her Ning, she couldn't help but feel a sense of warmth. I've already asked Lu Che to upgrade your business class to first class. Will it cause you any inconvenience? Ting was worried. He was afraid he would affect Tongning in case she had other plans. Of course not. Tongning understood Ting's intention and was touched by his thoughtfulness. Tomorrow's flight, she was originally supposed to sit next to Mo and Han Yufan. But would Mo be quiet and obedient? With Ting's arrangements, she would be able to rest peacefully on the plane. But if it was only for her, then Lin Wei and Long Jia. Let's talk when we get home. Wait. Tongning quickly called out to Ting. Ting could hear her hesitation and guessed it was inconvenient. So he said, if there's anything inconvenient, send me a message. Okay. Tongning nodded. After hanging up the phone, she sent Ting a message about her worries. She still couldn't completely trust Lin Wei, but since Lin Wei was already with her, she couldn't treat Lin Wei and Long Jia differently. Otherwise, she would easily lose her trust. Ting looked at Tongning's question as the corners of his lips naturally curved upwards. Although Tongning was a thorough thinker, she still lacked the ability to look at the bigger picture. In this aspect, Ting made up for Tongning's shortcomings. That's why the couple were able to get along so quickly. He was the man that could help Tongning identify the right direction and help her make decisions. Why don't you take a gamble? Although Long Jia is loyal, her abilities are limited. On the other hand, even though Lin Wei has made a lot of mistakes, she has, after all, managed a famous artist and is better than Long Jia in every aspect. Above all, everything about Lin Wei is in our hands. Even if we lose the bet, we won't get anything. I understand, hubby. Seeing Ting's reply, Tongning immediately calmed down and relaxed. I've also ascended to their cabin. Don't worry. Tongning knew her husband was a king amongst men and knew how to manipulate power. How could he not think of something as simple as this? Late at night, under the gorgeous lights, Han Yufan was packing his luggage in his bedroom. Mo hugged him from behind. Her voice was soft and gentle, completely different from the person who threw a tantrum in the meeting room. I'm sorry, Yufan. It was my fault for not being considerate. All right, after so many years, do you think I don't know your temper? Think about it. If I didn't care about you and worry about you and our child, would I have personally gone to the US? Han Yufan put away his luggage and turned to look at Mo. For now, you need to be patient. Don't go head to head with Tongning in case you get hurt. But I'm worried. I'm worried that you and her will rekindle your relationship. What are you talking about? You know the person I love is you. Don't overthink it. We still have a lot of good days ahead of us. There's no need to be calculative with a slut, Han Yufan comforted. You are pregnant, you need to maintain a good mood. In that case, on the plane tomorrow, you are not allowed to take a single glance at Tongning. You can only be good to me. Mo's request was a little unreasonable. Not only that, she even rubbed her body against Han Yufan's. She knew this was a common tactic for men. Okay, I'll do as you say. Han Yufan replied as he carried her in his arms towards the bathroom. With Han Yufan's promise, on this trip to the US, she was going to prove to Tongning who Han Yufan loved. She was going to make Tongning understand that no matter how Tongning made a comeback or how popular she became, she would never be able to win back Han Yufan's heart. Han Yufan and Tianyi Entertainment belonged to Mo. Tongning no longer had a chance. But did Tongning still care? Under the same yellow lights, Tongning packed her luggage in the walk-in closet. She noticed Ting also had a suitcase in his closet, so she walked over to the study room and asked, Ting, are you also going on a business trip? Aha, my flight is tomorrow. Ting nodded, but it seemed he was busy. Tongning was afraid she would delay his work, so she did not continue asking. Originally, she thought Ting would give her an update during their break. But it seemed Mo Ting had been busy all night in the study room and left for the office early the next morning. Looking at the note he left behind, Tongming assumed he had something urgent to deal with at the office. So she decided to report to him after arriving in the U.S. She was not suspicious of Mo Ting's whereabouts at all. Lin Wei was waiting at the entrance of Hyatt Regency early in the morning. Seeing Tongming didn't mention her relationship with Mo Ting, Long Jie didn't say anything. She quickly helped Tongming place her luggage in the boot, and the three of them quickly drove to the airport to meet up with Han Yufan and the others. As it was still early, there weren't many people at the airport. Mo Euro and Han Yufan held hands in front of Tongming without a care in the world. Mo Euro looked at Tongming provocatively, making Long Jie want to slap Mo Euro in the face. Long Jie, go change your boarding pass, Han Yufan ordered. Why me? Long Jie knew deep down Han Yufan was going to cause trouble for her and Lin Wei at the slightest disagreement. Long Jie, go ahead, Tongming said as she glanced at Long Jie. Long Jie was stunned for a moment, but immediately understood. Okay, wait a moment. Mo Euro and her assistant looked at each other. It seemed for the next few days, they would have someone to help them with their luggage. But who would have thought? As soon as Long Jie returned, she had already taken their boarding passes. Long Jie, what is the meaning of this? Mo Euro questioned. I am Tongming's assistant. I'm sorry, but my salary is paid by Tongming, not Tianyi Entertainment. So, why should I take it for you? Didn't you bring your own assistant? Long Jie explained in a serious tone, making Mo Euro and her assistant clench their teeth in anger. Han Yufan glanced at Tongming, but Tongming pretended not to see as she put on her sunglasses and turned away. Mo Euro looked at Tongming, thinking to herself, you will be jealous on the plane. Don't worry, let's wait and see. 8:20 a.m. It was time to board the plane. As Tongming ran into a few fans who recognized her and asked for her autograph, she was delayed for a few minutes. Han Yufan and Mo Euro boarded the plane first, while Tongming lagged behind. Originally, the three of them were supposed to sit side by side, but Mo Euro hugged onto Han Yufan, waiting to see Tongming's frustrated expression. However, she noticed Tongming did not sit down after walking to her seat. So, Mo Euro kindly reminded Tongming, Tongming, this is your seat. Chapter 34. Tongming glanced at the two before calmly turning around and saying, I'm in first class. Following behind Tongming, Long Jie let out a laugh as she waved the ticket in her hand. Sorry, we are the same. You guys enjoy yourselves in business class. Lin Wei didn't realize she had been promoted until she boarded the plane. But seeing Mo Euro's dumbfounded expression, she felt quite satisfied. This was the first time as a manager she received better treatment than a CEO. Mo Euro watched as the three of them entered the first-class cabin. She looked at Han Yufan questioningly. What's going on? Didn't they say there were no more first-class seats for this flight? Wasn't Tongming's ticket booked by the agency? I'm not sure either. Han Yufan replied angrily. I'm so angry. Mo Euro originally wanted Tongming to watch her, and Han Yufan being lovey-dovey. Who would have thought? She had actually entered first class. Tongming thought the first-class cabin would also be full. But as soon as the three of them entered, they realized, apart from them, there were no other passengers. Tongming, don't tell me that jerk and bitch will also be promoted to come in later? Although the first-class cabin was a private space with sliding doors, they could see there was no one inside. So Long Jie felt a little uneasy. Don't worry, miss. In order not to disturb Miss Tongming, Mr. Mo has booked the entire first-class cabin. There will not be any other passengers coming in, the flight attendant explained. After hearing the flight attendant's words, Long Jie held her head in her hands. She almost exploded. Tongming, your life is too good. Lin Wei had a confused look on her face. Just as she was about to ask what was going on, a dignified man dressed in a brown suit suddenly walked out from the private bathroom on the plane. His expression was calm, but his facial features were extraordinary. On his right earlobe was a unique mole that shone like a black diamond. Oh God! This was the CEO of Hai Rui Entertainment, a legend in the entertainment industry. Lin Wei was stunned. She never imagined she would see Mo Ting in a place like this. However, to her surprise, As soon as Tongning saw Emoting, she did not act like a stranger. In fact, her eyes lit up with surprise. Mr. Emo, can you explain to me why you left without saying a word this morning? Why are you here now? Mrs. Emo, you don't seem to want to see me? Emoting took the bag from her hands, showing his gentlemanly consideration. It's not that I don't want to, it's just that I'm scared. CEO Emo seems to be good at using all kinds of methods to present himself to me. Tongning affectionately held onto Emoting's arm as the couple entered a small room and closed the door. Lin Wei felt that her brain was unable to process the information. It was a complete blank. Tongning hasn't introduced herself to you yet, has she? Long Jie raised her eyebrows. The CEO of Hai Rui Entertainment, the big boss of the entertainment industry, is Tongning's new husband. When I first found out, I was even more surprised than you. When did they get married? Lin Wei asked with a complicated expression. On the day Tongning and Han Yufan registered their marriage, Han Yufan and Emo Euro were still having an affair. Tongning suffered a huge blow, so she married herself. As it turns out, she married the right person. However, their marriage was kept a secret, no one knew about it. Since Long Jie had explained things to this point, she decided to give Lin Wei a few more reminders. Since Tongning told you about this without hesitation, it means she has acknowledged your abilities. As you can see, even though Tongning married Emoting, she has never intended to rely on him. She has always relied on her own abilities. Lin Wei, Tongning is a diamond in the rough. Sooner or later she will stand at the top of the modeling industry. So, you need to know what you should do and what you shouldn't do. Lin Wei sighed. When it came to Tongning, she had completely admitted defeat. Tongning had given her the sweetest piece of candy and revealed her secret. At the same time, she had given her a slap in the face. Even if Tongning no longer relied on Emoting, he was still her husband. No husband would stand by and watch his wife be bullied. So, there was no way she could betray Tongning. Most importantly, Lin Wei suddenly had a feeling. Long Jie had experienced it firsthand. At this time, you must be thinking the jerk and jerk outside are stupid, right? Long Jie rolled her eyes. So, every time Emo Euro looks at Tongning with an expression that says, "Don't fight with me. You're no match for me. I want to tell her to stop being stupid." Lin Wei nodded her head in agreement. That was exactly how she felt at this moment. In fact, it was very strong. Apart from being blind for a few years, Tongning's EQ and IQ were considered to be above average in the industry. Who would have thought? She had an emperor in her family. How could jerks like Han Yufan and Emo Euro compare? How many more surprises did Tongning have in store for her to see? Marrying Emoting as soon as she got married. If it was her, even if she had met 10 jerks in the past, she would have been willing. Because of Emoting's presence, Lin Wei and Long Jie felt extremely small. Lin Wei even needed to find a quiet place to sit down and digest everything she had just seen. Inside the private room, Tongning lay on top of Emoting's body. She never expected Emoting would wrap himself up and deliver himself to her. "Are you surprised?" Emoting asked as he gently stroked Tongning's back. "Aha." Tongning's eyes became misty, but her heart felt warm. She knew how busy Emoting was. "Ting, you don't need to be like this. I can take good care of myself. We are newlyweds, we shouldn't be separated. Plus, I like to surprise you. Of course, I like it even more. The word you just called me. Can you say it again?" Emoting asked as he hooked his finger under her chin. "Ting." Tongning repeated. At this time, Emoting's kiss landed heavily on her lips. "I also like to kiss you." It was easy to lack oxygen on a plane, so Emoting quickly let go of Tongning and hugged her tightly in his arms. "Go to sleep. After we arrive in the US, you will be very busy." "What about you? Are you going to the US, just to keep me company?" Tongning asked as she lifted her head. "You wish. Hai Rui has so many subsidiaries in the US. Even if I were to inspect them one by one, it would take me at least a week." In reality, the most important thing was to buy insurance for Tongning's legs. "I have property in the US, so if you can find an excuse to move in with me, it would be best. I'm afraid Tianny will be a little more troublesome." Han Yufan's sister, Han Ruoxue has sharp eyes, Tongning replied. Although we used to have a good relationship, she is, after all, Han Yufan's sister. As long as Han Yufan asks, she will sell me out and make me a foil to Mo Euro. But I don't see any signs of fear on your face. Mo Ting was confident in his little wife. Chapter 35. Because I am no longer the Tongning that can be taken advantage of. Also, because I already have you, Tongning replied calmly. But within her calmness, there was a sense of confidence. If we weren't on a plane right now, I would have kissed you until you couldn't breathe. Mo Ting tried his best to resist the urge to kiss her. He simply hugged Tongning tightly and breathed in her unique fragrance. During this time, Mo Euro's assistant tried to find out how Tongning was doing in the first-class cabin. However, he was stopped outside by the air stewardess. There was no way he could get in. After a 12-hour flight, the plane finally landed at 9 a.m. U.S. time. Han Yufan's sister, Han Ruoxue, was waiting at the airport to receive them. As soon as she saw them, she gave everyone a warm hug, including Tongning. Although her sister had an Asian face, she had a tall figure and looked no different from a Westerner. Her clothes were all limited edition and unique. However, her biggest weakness was her average looks. Otherwise, she would have been able to make a name for herself in the entertainment industry. However, she had a good eye for talent. Although the artists she managed weren't super popular, they still held a high position in the European and US markets. During the years that Tongning and Han Yufan had been together, she had only seen Han Ruoxue twice. She didn't like controlling other women, and Han Ruoxue was one of them. Tongning, actually, I've already heard about the incident between you and Yufan. I've already helped you scold him, but relationships are relationships and work are work. You can't use your work for personal gain and make things difficult for Yufan. That would be too immoral. Han Ruoxue criticized Tongning in front of everyone. It was obvious she was trying to put her in a tough spot. For the shoot for Secret magazine, give Sister Shui some face and cooperate with the magazine's requests. Don't cause any trouble for Yufan, okay? Hearing Han Ruoxue's words, Long Jie was filled with anger. Why didn't Han Ruoxue teach Mo Euro a lesson? Why was she picking on Tongning? Did she think that after tricking Tongning into coming to her, she would be able to make Tongning suffer as she pleased? Tongning's expression was calm as she smiled at Han Ruoxue. She did not get angry, nor did she nod her head in reply. This made Han Ruoxue unable to guess what Tongning was planning. The group headed out of the airport. At this time, Mo Ting and the higher-ups of the U.S. subsidiary also walked out of the hall. As soon as Han Ruoxue saw Mo Ting, it was as if she had discovered a superstar. She ran towards the direction Mo Ting had left in her high heels. He was simply too famous. Like a natural emperor, he was more dazzling than any other superstar. President Mo. President Mo. Hearing Han Ruoxue's voice, Mo Ting turned around. Seeing Han Yufan and the others, his gaze landed on Tongning. The two of them exchanged glances. Tongning understood Mo Ting's intention. He wanted her to find an opportunity to move out. He really wanted her by his side. Tongning smiled as her eyes lit up, implying that she would do her best. Lin Wei and Long Jie knew why Mo Ting had turned around. Of course, they also knew that if Han Ruoxue ran like this, she would only be stopped 2 meters away from Mo Ting. As expected, after Mo Ting turned around to look at Tongning, he pretended not to see Han Ruoxue as he boarded the Lincoln limousine. As for Han Ruoxue, she could only watch as Mo Ting left. Nonsense. Long Jie sneered inside. Did he think anyone could get close to Tongning's big boss? Although Han Ruoxue didn't get to see her idol as she wished, she was still very excited. I never imagined I would run into Mo Ting here. He is too charming. This time, it was Lin Wei's turn to think. What you never imagined was, the person you just bullied was Mo Ting's real wife. Tongning remained calm as she gently put on her sunglasses, acting like the incident had never happened. At this time, Han Ruoxue regained her composure as a top manager. She turned to the trio and said, Tongning, you have just arrived in the US, so today is a day off. Let's get used to the time difference. The driver will take you to the hotel. Yufan Euro and I are having a family dinner. Family dinner? In other words, Han Ruoxue had already identified Mo Euro as her sister-in-law. For Tongning, being in a foreign country with no resources and no friends from the media, it was easy for her to be at a disadvantage. As for Han Ruoxue, it was obvious she wanted to make her suffer. But Han Ruoxue had forgotten, 3 years ago, Tongning had also appeared in a few US blockbusters. Although she didn't appear on the runway, she wasn't without connections. It's been a long time since I've been to the US. I want to go see some old friends first, so I may be staying at a friend's house. Since it's a hotel room, I will check out, Tongning said calmly. That's fine, but when the time comes, I will inform you to be there. Be on time. Han Ruoxue nodded her head in agreement. At this moment, Mo Euro was completely immersed in Han Ruoxue's attitude towards her. She was extremely pleased with herself. Han Ruoxue's targeting of Tongning was too obvious. No matter how much Han Ruoxue disliked her, for the sake of her brother, she would still give Tongning some face. Especially in a place like the US, did Tongning really think she could make a comeback? So, she completely believed the day of her comeback had arrived. Han Ruoxue indeed planned to help her make a comeback, but was it really that easy? Han Ruoxue gave Tongning a few words before leaving the airport with Han Yufan and Mo Euro. At this time, Tongning gave Mo Ting a phone call. Ting, have you gone far? What do you think? Mo Ting ordered the driver to wait in a hidden corner. He knew Tongning would have a way to get rid of those people. As expected, Tongning smiled as she waited in silence. Within a minute, the Lincoln limousine arrived in front of Tongning. The driver respectfully opened the door for Tongning and invited her to board the car in English. Tongning boarded the car with Long Jie and Lin Wei. This was the first time the two of them had been so close to Mo Ting. But they didn't have the courage to look at Mo Ting directly, because only when he was facing Tongning would he reveal a gentle expression. But when he looked at others, it was like he was covered in ice. Are you troubled by secrets? Shoot? Mo Ting asked as he handed Tongning a glass of red wine and stroked her long black hair. Those people are in cahoots with each other. They will definitely create a lot of problems for me. At that time, I might be replaced or come here for nothing. I am mentally preparing myself. Han Ruoxue is bullying our Tongning because she is unfamiliar with the US. She is bullying us because we don't have any fans in the US. Long Jie scoffed angrily. Who told you I am unfamiliar with the US? Tongning asked Long Jie with a deeper meaning. Chapter 36. Although I was discovered in France, back when I was on the runway for Master, I got to know a lot of famous European and American models, Eddie Wengna, etc. As for the editor of Royal magazine, he was my mentor for half a month. Although they may not remember me now, at that time, no one knew my Chinese name was Tongning. They all liked to call me Kira, Tongning explained calmly. Hearing Tongning mention the famous European and American fashion figures, Long Jie and Lin Wei both blinked their eyes at her. I know, Han Ruoxue wants to get rid of me once I've outlived my usefulness. She wants me to be Mo Euro's bait. As soon as I arrive in the US, I won't stand a chance. Shameless, Long Jie scoffed. I also know the editor of Royal magazine. Do you want to meet your mentor? Mo Ting, who hadn't spoken for a long time, suddenly asked. Mo Ting, I've said before, I don't need your help. Just treat it as a private gathering. Mo Ting laughed silently. His perfect face looked even more charming under the sunlight. Okay, Tongning nodded. Tongning nodded her head. Of course, she never expected this private dinner would be the deciding factor between her and Mo Euro. Mo Ting had a private manor in the US, so they didn't need to stay in a hotel. The pure American-style suite was many times more comfortable than a hotel. As they were quite a distance away from Secret's headquarters, Mo Ting had already asked Lu Che to prepare Secret's schedule. Even when their gathering was scheduled, Lu Che was able to easily find out. This made Tongning feel amazed. It also allowed Lin Wei and Long Jie to see how far apart they were from Lu Che. After a simple shower, Tongning stood in front of the window and looked outside. At this time, Mo Ting arrived in front of Tongning in a black robe with his wet hair. Tongning naturally received the towel from his hands and stood on her tiptoes, to help him wipe the water droplets from his hair. However, Mo Ting continued to stare at her seriously. "What are you thinking about? You look so engrossed. I was wondering if I should do something forbidden with you since it's daytime." Mo Ting lifted her chin and gently kissed her. His tongue danced with hers. Afterwards, his lips moved towards her earlobe as he murmured, "On the plane, I just want to kiss you once." Tongming looked out the window, afraid someone was outside. But she couldn't resist Mo Ting's teasing. So, she threw away her armor and collapsed into his arms. Their bathrobes had slipped to the floor at some point, and the two of them couldn't help but fall onto the soft bed after seeing each other with sincerity. As the lighting was bright, Tongming was able to clearly see Mo Ting's body. It definitely surpassed that of European and American male models. His body was not as skinny as Asian men, it was firm and strong, especially his perfect muscles and tanned skin. Tongming was mesmerized by the sight of him. Mo Ting was satisfied with the way she looked at him, and praised her body. Tongming's body was the golden standard for international models. She was 178 centimeters tall, and her 3 measurements were perfect. However, what he was most satisfied with were her long legs. They were fair and well-proportioned. Anyone who saw them would want to commit a crime. The combination of 2 people with perfect bodies was like a gift from God. It was fate. Mo Ting smiled at Tongming. "If we maintain this body for the rest of our lives, the chances of us getting divorced are 0. Tongming also smiled gently as she used her left hand to gently stroke Mo Ting's right earlobe. "I love this mole on your face. It's like you were born with an earring." Mo Ting could no longer hold back the passion in his heart, as he leaned over and kissed Tongming on the lips. His warm palms did not stop. Tongming couldn't help but moan as she kissed Mo Ting's earlobe with the same passion. The couple continued to be entangled like this. When they were tired, they would hug each other to sleep. When they woke up, they would lean against each other and whisper to each other. Afterwards, they would make love to each other again. Of course, they had not completed the final step. But Tongming still hoped this kind of life would come to an end. It was too beautiful. Meanwhile, Han Ruoxue was having dinner with Han Yufan and Mo Euro in the hotel lobby. Seeing Mo Euro acting a little reserved, she quickly said, "I'm not that scary. Ruoxue Jia. I am not satisfied with you, but no matter how I am, you are still my brother's choice. Since we are going to be a family, I will definitely stand on your side." Han Ruoxue sliced a piece of steak and placed it in her mouth. She then glanced at Mo Euro. "I know you and Tongming are like fire and water, and Tongming is indeed a little too arrogant. Originally, I felt I owed her, because of what happened between you two. But from the way she has acted recently, I don't think she deserves any sympathy. Tomorrow, Secret has a meeting at 8 a.m. But I have already asked my assistant to inform Tongming that it will only start at 9 a.m. The editor of Secret hates people being late, so Tongming will most likely be replaced tomorrow. But didn't you tell us to shoot together?" Mo Euro didn't understand Han Ruoxue's actions. Saying you want to shoot together is simply to create a topic of conversation and divert the public's attention away from your scandal. In the US, it's not like Tongming is the only Asian model. When the time comes, you can simply find someone else to work with you, Han Ruoxue explained. Tongming won't give up. This is the magazine's decision. It has nothing to do with Tianyi. By the time the shoot is over, your value will increase. At the same time, the cold reception Tongming receives overseas will affect her prospects in China. This will be a good lesson for her. Tongming had mentioned before, Han Ruoxue was someone that liked to control her artists. So, the way Tongming looked when she got off the plane had already made Han Ruoxue feel disgusted. It would be strange if she didn't find a way to torture her. Mo Euro looked at the 2 people supporting her. She felt she was about to become a superstar, while Tongming had nothing. How could she compete with her? Indeed, when Lin Wei received the meeting time from Han Ruoxue, it was 9 a.m. But Han Ruoxue had no idea. Mo Ting had a schedule in his hands that was even more accurate than hers. So, when Tongming saw the time difference, she already had a rough idea of what was going on. "Tongming, it's obvious Tianyi wants to kick you out of the competition. What should you do?" Han Ruoxue wants me to be late so much. I will show her I'm early, Tongning said in a low voice. But you guys better be prepared for me to be replaced. I've already prepared myself, Lin Wei replied. At the same time, I've also prepared myself for you to take back this opportunity. Chapter 37. The next morning, Secret Magazine headquarters. Tongning was led by the receptionist to Secret's meeting room at 7:30 a.m. She arrived half an hour earlier than Han Ruoxue and the others. But Mo Euro guessed that Tongning was still sleeping soundly in bed. Who would have thought, by the time they arrived at the meeting room, Tongning had already been waiting for a long time. Han Ruoxue had a look of surprise on her face. She originally thought Tongning wouldn't even be able to enter the meeting room when she arrived at 9 a.m. and wouldn't have the chance to find out she had purposely delayed the meeting. But now that Tongning had arrived early, she was sure Tongning already knew why she wanted Tongning to be eliminated. But so what? She was the organizer of this event. She could do whatever she wanted. No one else had the right to interfere. Tongning, why are you here so early? Mo Euro scoffed. It seemed, Han Ruoxue's plan did not affect Tongning. My friend was on the way, so he gave me a lift on his way to work, Tongning explained calmly. Let's not talk anymore. The meeting is about to start. Han Ruoxue reminded the two to be quiet. Not long after, the person in charge of Secret entered the meeting room. She was a middle-aged woman in her 40s. Behind her were two assistants, each carrying a tall stack of documents. Ruoxue, I've already seen the information on these two models. The woman lifted her head and glanced at Tongning and Mo Euro before continuing. But, I only want one of them. Since everyone's time is precious, I won't beat around the bush. I want Mo Euro. As for Tongning, she doesn't really fit our theme. The woman directly threw Tongning's resume on the table. It's fine if you don't want Tongning. I have other models for you to choose from. Things were just as Han Ruoxue expected. After all, this was the result of her long hours of instilling Tongning's weaknesses in the woman's ears. So, she directly pulled out the information of her models and handed it to the woman. Not only was she trying to get rid of Tongning after she was no longer of use, she was also making use of her. Not only did she help Mo Euro, she also helped her own models. Let me have a look first before I decide. The woman instructed her assistant to put away the information. After speaking, the woman was about to stand up, but Tongning held her back. I wonder what Miss Mina is talking about. The man obviously did not expect Tongning to ask, so he replied, the Oriental trend. I don't think Miss Tang is suitable for someone as inflexible as you. Miss Mina, have you seen my work? In other words, have you seen my shows? Tongning asked with a smile. Aren't you a newcomer? The man had obviously never heard of Tongning. First, let me ask you, was it Miss Han who told you I was a newcomer? Tongning asked calmly. Tongning, don't go overboard. Han Ruoxue immediately growled at Tongning. This is our decision, you have no right to interfere. You used my name to lure Mo Euro to the US, then used my name to save a spot for your newcomer. You used me so thoroughly, yet you don't want me to question you? Tongning looked at Han Ruoxue with a sharp smile. Tongning, you really don't have the slightest bit of magnanimity. My magnanimity is not used to tolerate jerks and their strange relatives. Tongning said to Han Ruoxue before turning to the representative. Since you've never seen my shows, why bother putting on an act? How about this, let's make a bet. Before tomorrow morning, you will all regret it. After speaking, Tongning walked away, put on her sunglasses and left with Lin Wei and Long Jia. The representative was stunned by Tongning's imposing manner. He then asked Han Ruoxue, who is this model? Han Ruoxue's face turned red in anger as she replied, a newcomer model that will never make it to the top. She's not an important role. The representative did not think much of it as he turned around and left the meeting room, preparing to call in the other staff to discuss the price. At this time, Mo Euro stood up and added fuel to the fire. Ruoxue Jia, Tongning is getting more and more out of control. She doesn't even respect you. Han Yufan was not present. This was a battle between women, so Han Ruoxue did not hold back. She wants me to regret it? Why don't you take a look at yourself first? Prepare yourself. When your value rises, Tongning will kneel on the floor and wipe your shoes for you. Okay, Ruoxia, I won't let you down. Mo Euro swore to herself that she would definitely teach Tongning a lesson. Even if Tongning resisted, she wouldn't even have the chance to compete. But was that really the case? After leaving Secret's headquarters, Tongning directly brought Lin Wei and Long Jie back to the manor. Although she was mentally prepared, Long Jie was still so angry that her body trembled. I've never seen such a shameless person. The Han family sure are one after the other. Tongning, what do you plan to do now? Lin Wei asked. We've already completely fallen out with the Han siblings. Do you think if we don't fall out, they will let me off? Tongning laughed. I've said it before. Secret will personally make a phone call tomorrow. Perhaps we won't even have to wait until tomorrow morning. Fine, since you already have a plan. Let's wait and see how it turns out. Lin Wei was actually quite curious as to how Tongning would turn the tables, but she knew Tongning was a meticulous person. If she wasn't completely confident, she wouldn't say anything. So, all they needed to do was wait patiently. In reality, before Mo Ting gave her the invitation to the U.S. photography exhibition that morning, she had been thinking of other ways to deal with him. But Mo Ting's intention was clear. Since Mo Euro had already asked Han Ruoxia for help, what was wrong with relying on her for once? Above all, Mo Ting wasn't going to make an appearance, nor help her pull some strings. He was simply giving her a chance to compete fairly with Mo Euro. So in the end, Tongning agreed to attend the exhibition. This exhibition would be attended by many big-name photographers, magazines and celebrities including people from Secret. As for her mentor, the editor of Royal Magazine, he was the organizer of the exhibition. The exhibition was tonight, so as soon as Tongning returned to the manor, she immediately made preparations. Although the rules of the entertainment industry had long been set in stone, it wasn't impossible to change them. Han Ruoxia thought she was in charge, but tonight, Tongning was going to let her know she was nothing. The result of her arrogance was that she could only control a B-grade model like Mo Euro to satisfy her vanity. She didn't need people to remember she was once Kira. All she had to do was stand by her mentor's side, and everyone would know her status was not ordinary. Was she a newcomer? Who defined that? Chapter 38. Mo Ting instructed for a lot of dresses to be prepared. He even personally picked out a metal-printed strapless dress for her. It had a white base, and the floral print was a classic Oriental ink painting. As the dress had a strong Oriental feel to it, it accentuated the classic aura of an Oriental beauty. On top of that, Tongning's slim waist and long pale legs. Her gentleness and charm were instantly released into the air like a fragrance. Mo Ting stood behind Tongning and pressed his chest tightly against her back. He wrapped his arms around her waist, unwilling to let go. You are like a work of art. That is because you have good taste, Tongning praised. She had no idea Mo Ting understood her to this extent. He knew Secret was planning to shoot the Oriental trend, and knew they were trying to humiliate her, because she was a newcomer. So, Mo Ting deliberately chose this dress to show Secret how much of a loss they would be if they didn't choose Tongning. Why are you a model? I really want to hide you away, Mo Ting complained as he placed his chin on Tongning's shoulder. Then why don't you say that even Han Ruoxia goes crazy when she sees you? Tongning immediately retorted before smiling. Don't worry, we can only touch each other. That's true. After speaking, Mo Ting turned Tongning around and kissed her on the lips. The couple stood in front of the mirror, passionately entangled. Tongning could even see her own expression through the mirror. Mo Ting's kiss was truly enjoyable. Whether it was lingering or passionate, his lips were exclusive to her alone. If another woman had kissed Mo Ting, she would feel uncomfortable just thinking about it. Okay, I'm going to be late. Tongning pushed Mo Ting away with a red face. After we get home, you need to compensate me double. Mo Ting gently let go of her. Tongning nodded her head as she placed a kiss on Mo Ting's ear. I will give you whatever compensation you want. The photography exhibition was scheduled to open at 7 p.m. in an abandoned park in the U.S. Tongning arrived not too late, but not too early either. By the time she pulled out her invitation, there were already plenty of famous people gathered in the exhibition hall. Of course, this included her mentor Bertha. Everyone was competing with each other, but most of them were wearing Western styles. Only Tongning, who was wearing an Oriental-style short dress, immediately attracted the attention of many people, including the person in charge of Secret, Mina, who had just rejected her earlier in the day. She walked over to Tongning with a glass of champagne in her hand and said in a mocking tone, "I never thought you would chase me all the way here just to get back on the front cover." Tongning let out a gentle laugh and said in a dignified manner, "I think Miss Mina has misunderstood." "There's nothing to misunderstand. You knew that I was going to film the Oriental trend, so you purposely appeared dressed like this. Unfortunately, once I've made up my mind, I'll never change it." Mina thought Tongning was referring to her appearance. Although she was indeed beautiful, Secret wouldn't go so far as to change their mind just because of a model. Also, President Han from Tianyi said you have a bad character. From the looks of it, he was right. You are indeed trying to use this opportunity to get ahead. I've said it before, my outfit today has nothing to do with Secret, Tongning emphasized once again. This time, her voice was obviously louder as she attracted the attention of Bertha, who was watching the exhibition with the other VIPs. You sure are scheming. No wonder Wuxia warned me to be cautious. Miss Mina, you really think too highly of yourself. After speaking, Tongning turned her gaze to Bertha, who was standing behind Mina with a smile on her face. Mentor. Bertha looked at Tongning in surprise before excitedly hugging Tongning in her arms. Oh, my dear darling, it's been a while. How have you been? I've been great, but mentor, I've run into a bit of trouble, Tongning explained. Hearing this, Bertha finally remembered the reason she had come. It was because she had heard the two arguing. So she let go of Tongning and looked at Mina. What's going on? How is this possible? Mina was surprised. Didn't Tongning come to redeem herself from the front cover? How did she know the editor of Royal Magazine? And they were so close. Tongning did not hide anything, as she directly explained the situation to Bertha. After hearing this, Bertha felt the people at Secret were crazy. She was also quite direct with her words as she directly fired at Mina. This is the reason why your magazine has declined to this day. You actually rejected my darling and asked for a B-grade model, yet you're still so happy about it? Oh my god, this is unbelievable. Do you know how many awards Kira has received on the runway in France? Isn't she a new model? Mina was stunned. She walked on Master Bonai's show and appeared at the finale. At that time, she was only 18 years old. You didn't even know where you were. After speaking, Bertha affectionately hooked her arm around Tongning's. Baby, don't be angry. Whatever cover you want to appear on, just tell your mentor. Mina stared blankly at the two as they walked away. Her heart was burning with anger. She had listened to Han Ruoxue and given up on Tongning. Who would have thought? She had once again become a stupid person who bought the casket and returned the pearls. No, she had to get Tongning back. This was the only thought in Mina's mind. She had completely forgotten that she had previously said she wouldn't change her mind for the sake of a model. Tongning did not turn around to look at Mina. She could guess what Mina was thinking. But she rejected Bertha's good intentions and told her everything she had experienced over the years. Mentor, I am well aware of my current position. I need to take one step at a time and reclaim the position that belongs to me. So, I thank you for your good intentions. Baby, as long as you have a clear mind, it's never too late to start again. Bertha nodded. Thank you, mentor. Look at you, you are the center of attention. You haven't changed at all. Hearing the compliments, Tongning smiled modestly. She knew in this world, there were too many talented people. She was nothing compared to them. After the photography exhibition ended, Bertha sent someone to escort Tongning out. At this time, Mina suddenly appeared and blocked Tongning's car. Can you give me 5 minutes to talk to me? What else do we have to talk about? Tongning asked straightforwardly. As long as you are willing to appear on our cover, you can ask for anything. I will do whatever you ask for, even if you have to go against Han Ruoxue. Tongning looked at the people outside and asked in a dangerous and flippant manner. I am a vengeful person. I already said, I will do whatever it takes. Then, I will wait to see your sincerity. Tongning smiled as she wound up the window and signaled for the driver to set off. Han Ruoxue, you will find out tomorrow. Everything has changed. Chapter 39. After returning to the manor, Lin Wei and Long Jia welcomed her and anxiously grabbed onto her arm. Tongning simply smiled. She would not let down everyone's expectations, especially the man who had made meticulous arrangements for her. Long Jia noticed Tongning's gaze was fixated on the man sitting on the sofa reading through documents. She smiled ambiguously and pushed Tongning over. Let's not be a third wheel anymore. Hurry and accompany him. After speaking, Long Jia and Lin Wei returned to their respective rooms. However, a moment later, Long Jia returned with her phone in hand. She looked at Tongning helplessly. Han Yufan is calling. Are you going to pick up? Tongning glanced at Mo Ting and nodded her head before taking the phone from Long Jia's hands. Tongning, since the magazine didn't choose you, you should return home tomorrow. There's no point in staying here. Don't blame my sister for being heartless. She is doing this for the sake of Tianyi. It was the magazine that didn't want you. You have no right to blame anyone. Han Yufan said as if it was the right thing to do. After using me, you want to kick me aside, yet you expect me to accept it? Tongning's tone was calm, but there was a hint of ridicule in her tone. Why can't you just give up? Why do you always target Euro? Why can't you just let us go? Han Yufan asked impatiently. Towards Tongning, he felt she was a heavy and troublesome burden. He wanted to get rid of the persistent Tongning, but Tongning kept pushing him. I have no reason to give way to a jerk. Tongning's tone was firm. I know this industry is like this. Today, Mo Euro has a powerful background, so she can step on me and use me to advance. But it doesn't mean she will still be lucky tomorrow. You already have no chance, get over it. It's not Euro's fault that I love her. My sister is right. You don't have the slightest bit of magnanimity. Tongning suddenly clenched her left hand. Mo Ting seemed to sense her emotions as he wrapped his warm palm around her. Han Yufan was a heartless person, otherwise, he wouldn't have treated Tongning, who had endured for him for so many years, like this. He took away her love, destroyed her career, and now he wanted her to selflessly sacrifice herself for his new love, even squeezing every last bit of her flesh and blood dry. Your selfishness will only push Mo Euro deeper into hell. After speaking, Tongning hung up the phone and tried her best to calm down. Mo Ting put down the document, held onto her hands and gently shook her body. I'm fine. I just feel disgusted from time to time. I haven't trained my heart to be that strong. Did you see your mentor? Mo Ting did not probe further, and simply asked about the outcome of the night. Yes, it went well. I've also gotten to know a lot of famous photographers. Mo Ting, I'm really happy. The only thing missing is you. Just a moment ago, I was thinking, if I could hold your hand at an event like this, how wonderful would that be? There will be opportunities in the future, Mo Ting said meaningfully. Are you tired? Do you want me to give you a massage? After speaking, Tongning knelt beside Mo Ting, ready to give him a massage. However, Mo Ting turned around, grabbed onto her hand and carried her in his arms. I want you to massage somewhere else for me. Hubby, I won't make you wait too long. Tongning mumbled passionately as she hugged Mo Ting. Under the moonlight, Tongning hugged Mo Ting as she mumbled passionately. Because I've realized, every time I think about someone else kissing your lips, it makes me feel uncomfortable. The next morning, secret headquarters. Mina once again called Mo Euro and the others to the conference room for a meeting. Yesterday, they had only drafted the contract. Today was the official signing. Mo Euro wanted to participate in the magazine shoot as soon as possible, because the child in her stomach was already over a month old. If she delayed any longer, it would be easy for others to find out. The top 10 model awards would be held in half a month's time. She wanted to use Secret's results to clinch the top 10 model awards and advance towards becoming an A-grade model. As Secret was a weekly magazine, they were released before the awards. So, whether or not she could trigger the Oriental trend, would also be considered for the top 10 model awards. 5 minutes later, Mina entered the conference room. As she looked at Emo Yuro and Han Ruoxue, her eyes carried a hint of ridicule. However, they didn't notice it. Mina, we are ready, we can start filming at any time. Don't worry, Yuro is a very professional model. She will definitely be able to complete Secret's mission and trigger the Oriental trend. Also, we have already arranged for Tongning to return to China. She won't cause us any more trouble. After all, as you know, she isn't easy to deal with. Mina sneered as she fiddled with the pen in her hand. But what should we do? I'm so sorry, Ruoxue. It's a pity I didn't come here to sign a contract with you today. I've changed models again. After speaking, Mina tore Emo Yuro's contract into pieces. I don't plan on using the 2 models you have anymore. These are the conditions they agreed to give me. Hearing this, Han Ruoxue slammed the table in anger. Mina, what do you mean by this? Han Ruoxue never expected Secret would suddenly change their mind. Don't you understand what I mean? I said I don't want to sign Emo Yuro, yet for the sake of your own family's private matters, you're giving me a model that's not up to standard. Han Ruoxue, is this how you treat your friends? I don't understand what you're saying. Han Ruoxue was confused. Fine. Then let me ask you, why did you tell me Tongning is a new model? She has won international awards and rankings, and is also the proud disciple of the chief editor of Royal Magazine. But what did you tell me? Were you afraid I wouldn't want Emo Yuro, so you deliberately slandered her? Mina scoffed loudly. Han Ruoxue choked. Did you know because of your selfishness, I lost face at the photography exhibition last night? Mina continued to criticize Han Ruoxue, completely disregarding their past friendship. Han Ruoxue, I don't care what you do behind my back, nor do I have the ability to do so. But in front of me, you better keep your schemes to yourself. But you can't just say you don't want her. You've seen Emo Yuro's professionalism. Regarding this matter, it's not up to me. I've already agreed to a model I've worked so hard to sign. If you want to plead for her, look for her. As long as she agrees to work with Mo Yuro, I have no objections. Mina placed the shredded contract on the table and turned to ask her assistant. Is she here? She's here. Hearing this, Han Ruoxue clenched her teeth. I want to see how amazing this model that made you break your contract with me is. Chapter 40. Han Ruoxue turned her head and looked at the entrance of the meeting room. Meanwhile, Han Yufan and Emo Yuro glared angrily at the door. Who was it that had come to ruin their plans again? Emo Yuro was even more furious. It wasn't easy for her to get rid of Tongning, but who would have thought? The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. There was someone else trying to steal her away. The atmosphere in the meeting room suddenly became extremely tense. At this time, the door to the meeting room was pushed open, and a beautiful figure appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Tongning. It was actually Tongning. It was Tongning again. Han Ruoxue clenched her fists tightly. She never expected Tongning had managed to convince Mina once again and come back. Meanwhile, Emo Yuro and Han Yufan stood up at the same time. This was impossible. Tongning had already been eliminated. What did she do to make Secret decide to hire her again? After careful consideration, Secret has unanimously decided to hire Tongning as our model, Mina announced loudly to the people in front of her. Her eyes looked at the people in front of her in a flirtatious manner. This is also an artist of Tianyi, but I can't feel any happiness from you. Could it be that Tongning isn't a model of Tianyi? Tongning, what trick did you use? Why did you steal the front cover that belonged to me? Emo Yuro couldn't take it anymore and questioned Tongning. The front cover that belonged to you? Tongning maintained her usual smile, making it impossible to tell what she was thinking. You used my popularity to go overseas, and used the excuse of competing on the same stage as me to create gossip to suppress your scandal. But after you arrived overseas, you got rid of me as soon as I was no longer needed. You slandered my image in front of my business partners and fabricated my resume. Is this how the front cover of this magazine belongs to you? I simply took back what belonged to me. I simply took back the fairness that belonged to me. If you use your background to step on me, that's your ability. But if I use my own ability to take back the front page, that's my ability. I won't steal from anyone. But no one can step on my head. It's that simple. Every word Tongning said was firm and powerful. It made Mina, who had previously misunderstood her, look at her in a new light. What a tough temper. Tongning, I've said it before, this is a crucial time for Euro. The entire Tianyi should help her get through this. Han Yufan angrily challenged Tongning. Can you not be so selfish? Why does she have difficulties? Isn't it all because of you? I've said it before. I don't care how you want to support her. But if she wants to step on me to climb up, I'll only make her fall even worse. Tongning, Mina just said. As long as you agree, Euro can still participate in Secret Magazine. She doesn't have much time left. She is about to enter the top 10 model awards. Why should I agree? If she's in trouble, that's her problem. Do I have the obligation to help? Which law says that? Tongning asked in amusement. Isn't Ruoxua Jie very capable? Tell her to pick up another magazine. Tongning, don't go overboard. Han Ruoxua stomped her feet angrily. Mina couldn't be bothered to watch Tianyi's internal conflict. She simply patted Tongning on the shoulder and said, Tongning, I'll wait for you for half an hour. In half an hour, let me know your decision. Do you want to do it on your own? Or do you want Mo Euro to participate? Thank you, Mina. Tongning nodded. Perfect. There were some things she couldn't say in front of outsiders. I've left a few bodyguards at the door for you. If anyone tries to harm you, just give them a shout. Tongning smiled again. She still had Long Jie and Lin Wei behind her, so she wouldn't be at a disadvantage. As soon as Han Ruoxua saw Mina walk out, she immediately placed her palms on the table and asked Tongning, What do you want? This is not the attitude you should have when begging someone. Tongning faced Han Ruoxua calmly. You are well aware of what your brother has done. In this industry, we are well aware of how they support the strong and step on the weak. I know what I'm trying to say to you right now is useless. Since both sides hate each other, why should we cooperate? Why don't you go beg someone else? Han Ruoxua's eyes turned red, but at this moment, she had no other choice. After all, she was a manager from another agency. Getting involved in Tianyi's matters was already a breach of contract. She couldn't help Mo Euro in a high-profile manner. Plus, how could an opportunity come by so easily? So, she could only soften her attitude. Tell me your request, Tongning. If you push it too far, no one will have a good ending. Mo Euro said I'm trying to steal what belongs to her. No, it's Mo Euro who needs your help. Han Ruoxua gritted her teeth as she replied. In reality, deep down she wanted Tongning to disappear. But deep down Tongning also felt the same way. However, these people's repeated provocations made her understand one thing. If she could avoid reasoning with these people, she would rather choose benefits. So, she glanced at the unconvinced Mo Euro and raised her eyebrows. I can give Mo Euro this chance, but I have a condition. Speak. Han Ruoxua said as she held back her anger. I want Tianyi to promise me that from today onwards, I will be able to choose my own endorsements. In other words, I can choose whatever I want. Tianyi has no right to interfere. And they can't give me work that I don't agree to, Tongning said straightforwardly. That's impossible. Han Ruoxua was clear. What's the difference between this and terminating your contract, or setting up your own studio? You can choose not to agree. After all, I will still get this result. But are you sure Mo Euro can continue to wait? Han Ruoxua glanced at Han Yufan. The two of them lowered their heads in deep thought. In the end, Han Ruoxua told Tongning, the most I can agree to is that you have the right to speak, which means I won't randomly give you work. As for the projects you want to collaborate with, the agency must keep a close eye on them. Otherwise, if you accept all sorts of things, what will happen to the agency's reputation? Tongning, no artist can be above the agency. The agency can keep a close eye on them, but I want all the higher-ups to be present to make the final decision. I have long lost trust in Han Yufan. Other agencies always send good resources to their artists. I am not asking you to give me resources. I just want you to not interfere. And one more thing. Don't tie Mo Euro down. Han Ruoxua sneered. She didn't believe Tongning would be able to make a comeback. She was simply trying to gain a quick advantage. Once Mo Euro's status rose, how difficult would it be for Tianyi to slander another artist? When that time came, she would create a bit of trouble for Tongning in the industry. She didn't believe Tongning's career would be so smooth sailing. So she agreed. This was a temporary solution. Since she couldn't directly step on Tongning then, she would let her compete with Mo Euro. She wanted to see, with her top manager, whether Tongning could be more professional than Mo Euro. I agree. Han Ruoxue nodded her head in agreement. Chapter 41. Hearing these words, Lin Wei, who was standing behind Tongning, was completely in awe of Tongning's ability to think. At this moment, Tongning was standing on top of Han Ruoxue's head. Unlike other artists, who only cared about slapping people in the face to vent their anger, Tongning directly asked Han Ruoxue for a special privilege. From now on, Tianyi had no right to interfere with her projects. In other words, she was already a semi-freelance manager. Tongning understood these bitches too well. She needed to gain the right to make sure Han Yufan couldn't do things like secret again. This was much more useful than humiliating a few people. Tongning's mind was clear. Lin Wei sincerely thought, even if she didn't need a manager or an assistant, she could still make a name for herself. Think about it, which artists would take care of their own manager? Even so, Lin Wei didn't want to leave Tongning. There were so many things she could learn by following Tongning. Above all, she was shocked by Tongning's words. I am simply trying to get back the fairness that belongs to me. In this industry, there was no fairness to speak of. Tongning, on the other hand, was like a clear stream. So she wasn't afraid to share the stage with Mo Euro. With Tongning's professionalism, defeating Mo Euro in a second was too easy. Above all, in Tongning's heart, she needed a chance to compete with Mo Euro on the same stage. After all, she had once been Mo Euro's substitute. She needed to use this opportunity to show the public that her substitute had nothing to do with professionalism. Winning against Mo Euro was like playing a game. In the end, both parties came to an agreement. Tianyi would no longer randomly arrange Tongning's work. Instead, Tongning's projects would be voted on by the higher-ups of Tianyi. With the higher-ups' supervision, it would be impossible for Han Yufan to hide the truth from the masses. On top of that, most of Tongning's projects were profitable, so the chances of them disagreeing were almost zero. On the other hand, Tongning agreed to let Mo Euro film with her for secret. The two of them would work together to create a hot topic and guide the Oriental trend. When Mina finally heard Tongning's opinion, she was surprised that Tongning was still willing to accept Mo Euro. Her respect for Tongning grew even more. How strong did Tongning's heart have to be able to tolerate her opponent's slander and attacks that almost destroyed her? Tongning, you really surprised me. I am looking forward to seeing you on the front cover of the magazine. Plus, I want to apologize for underestimating you time and time again. It's all right. Tongning didn't mind. She knew these businessmen too well. Because of this, she knew that subduing them was better than offending them. I wish us a happy cooperation. Before Han Ruoxue and the others left, they glared coldly at Tongning. Their eyes were filled with a cold intent. From this moment onwards, the Han family and Tongning could no longer exist together. But so what? If she was afraid, she wouldn't have said such a thing in the conference room today. However, before leaving secret, Han Ruoxue warned Tongning, I don't know if you are too smart or too stupid. Tongning, although you were once famous, that is in the past. Yet, for the sake of a little profit, you are going against the company. You do not have a strong background. Even if you can be proud for a few days, you will not be able to go far. You don't need to worry about that, Tongning replied calmly. Long Jie sneered from behind. They had Mo Ting. Even if Tongning was nothing, she was still the wife of the CEO of Hai Rue Entertainment. When the truth is revealed, you guys will all be shocked to death. Tongning, I originally remembered the beautiful things that happened between us. But after today, all I feel towards you is disgust, Han Yufan said to Tongning. Han Yufan said to Tongning as he held Mo Euro in his arms. His expression was cold. and his eyes were filled with hatred towards Tongning. Mo Euro was proud. This was the first time Han Yufan had seriously expressed his feelings towards Tongning. This also meant from now on, no matter what Tongning did, he would never rekindle his feelings for her. For Tongning, this was a fatal blow. Of course, this was all in her imagination, because as Tongning prepared to leave, she simply smiled when she heard this. I thought you already felt my disgust towards you. Tongning's calm reply caused Long Jie and Lin Wei to laugh. Afterwards, the three boarded the car and left Han Yufan's line of sight without looking back. Ah! Long Jie let out an unbridled yell in the car. Today was too satisfying. Haha, tonight I want to drink champagne to celebrate. Every time I think about Han Ruoshua's twisted facial features, I really want to take a picture of her and let her see how ugly she is. Lin Wei turned to look at Tongning from the front passenger seat. She was a little confused. Did you already plan to ask Tianyi for the right to speak? If I don't do this, before Mo Euro is brought down, she will continue to use me to get ahead. So I need to get the right to speak. Tongning looked down at the contract that Han Yufan had written. She carefully checked if there were any loopholes. However, she realized there were a lot of legal terms that she didn't understand. She still needed Mo Ting's help. You mean, you will completely bring down Mo Euro? Lin Wei still didn't know about Mo Euro's pregnancy. The time is not right yet. Lin Wei looked into Tongning's eyes and didn't ask any further. If Tongning wanted to say something, she would say it sooner or later. So, what Lin Wei needed to do now was to give Tongning more trust. Only then could their relationship be truly unbreakable. Haha. Mo Euro still wants to compete with you on who is more professional. Tongning, turn her into your prop. Indeed, let's not talk about the long term. Secret shoot was the most important thing at the moment. Didn't the domestic and international fans want to see who was more professional? After returning to the manor, Mo Ting still hadn't returned home. The three women sat on the carpet in the living room and casually drank some red wine. Tongning, can you cook? I really can't stand American fast food. But I don't want to move. Tongning said lazily as she leaned back on the sofa. Oh God, we still have to eat steak, fries and burgers for another week. Let my husband cook. Tongning smiled. But I don't think he will be able to cook for you. Are you saying Big Boss knows how to cook? Long Jie looked like she had discovered a new continent, as she hugged onto Tongning's arm and asked. His skills aren't bad. Tongning, please let us have a feast. Long Jie clasped her hands together. Her attitude was sincere. She wanted to know if Big Boss was really as legendary as Tongning made him out to be. Even if it's just a small bite will do. What's so difficult about that? At this time, Mo Ting's voice came from behind them. Tongning looked at Mo Ting. Under the sunlight, his handsome face captivated her. To celebrate Tongning getting back what belongs to her, I will cook. But from now on, if anyone dares to let Tongning into the kitchen, I will not be polite. Chapter 42. Big Boss was too protective, wasn't he? Long Jie didn't dare to say another word. Tongning, on the other hand, smiled gently. Mo Ting's thoughtfulness made her heart feel warm like the winter sun. As for the results of the meeting at secret, Tongning showed Mo Ting the supplementary contract she received. Mo Ting sat on the sofa as he gently stroked Tongning's hair. The scene was so natural and warm. It made one feel like it was the most beautiful picture in the world. The entertainment industry is constantly changing. Every day, there are newcomers who rise to fame. No one can predict what will happen tomorrow. Han Ruoshua must still be dreaming of helping Mo Euro make a comeback. That's why she agreed to the supplementary contract so easily. She knows, as long as Mo Euro makes a comeback, it would be easy for her to step on you again. That's right. When I was looking up Mo Euro on the news, all that came up was the professional competition between Mo Euro and Tongning. The so-called experts in the modeling industry have also started comparing their past works. There are even people in the industry that believe Tongning was once Mo Euro's body double. They say if the two of them were to appear on the same stage, Tongning would only look like a second Mo Euro. They say she is the most beautiful Oriental model, and can create an oriental hurricane. They even compare their body parts. They say that apart from her legs, Tongning has no advantage over Mo. They say Mo is naturally flirtatious and Tongning is stiff and rigid. What kind of joke is this? With Mo's standards? Long Jie was angry just thinking about it. This is a common tactic used to create hype. There's nothing to be angry about. Let Mo suppress her in every aspect. Tongning comforted Long Jie. Mo Ting did not say a word. His obsidian-like eyes glowed with a hint of playfulness and mockery. Tongning took one glance at him and shook Missouri Ting's knee. Are you thinking the same thing as me? Overpraising her to death. Mo Ting simply replied. As expected, Tongning held onto Mo Ting's hand tightly. The person who understood her the most and didn't need her to waste time explaining was Mo Ting. Since the news that Han Ruoxue had sent out was all about supporting one and stepping on the other, she kept saying that Mo was suppressing her in all aspects. Then why shouldn't she help Han Ruoxue? He wanted Mo to become arrogant and let everyone have high hopes for her. He wanted her to become a rising superstar in the modeling industry and attract the attention of the most popular models. Only like this, the higher Mo climbed, the more professional she would be when everyone saw her, and the harder she would fall. At this time, we don't need to speak up, and we don't need to increase the popularity of others. You just need to show your professionalism, and that will be the most impeccable counterattack. Lin Wei listened to Mo Ting's words and then looked at Tongning. In front of Han Yufan, Tongning was as sharp as a hedgehog. No one could take advantage of her. But in front of Mo Ting, Tongning was like a little woman that needed her husband's protection. She didn't rely on Mo Ting, but she listened to his advice. Perhaps in her heart, only Mo Ting could make her truly obedient. In front of everyone, the strong and firm Tongning only showed her gentleness in front of Mo Ting. It seemed she only treated him specially. Husband and wife, they were a perfect match, Lin Wei thought to herself. Plus, with such a high IQ combination, she was already looking forward to what kind of miracle Tongning would create for secret. As for Mo, she was also curious. Since Han Ruoxue had placed Mo on such a high pedestal, how was Tongning going to kill her? In the kitchen, Mo Ting had already rolled up his sleeves and was busy cooking. However, Tongning, who had just finished showering, was wearing Mo Ting's shirt as she hugged him from behind. Ting! The smoke is so heavy, let's go outside and wait. Mo Ting focused on the fish in his hands. What should I do? You treat me so well. I'm starting to get scared, Tongning said as she buried her head into Mo Ting's back. You know, I don't have a sense of security. I'm afraid one day, you will also abandon me and walk away. Then are you going to watch me walk away? If that day really comes, Tongning, who is so ambitious in her career, doesn't have the courage to win me over? I also need to be coaxed. Hearing Mo Ting's last sentence, Tongning smiled as she removed one of Mo Ting's hands and forced her way between his arms. She then slowly undid 2 buttons on his shirt and waited until his chest muscles were revealed. She then buried her head under his shirt and peeked out with her eyes. You are really hindering me from cooking, Mo Ting laughed. Tongning originally had her back to Mo Ting's chest, but after hearing his words, she suddenly turned around and pressed her icy cold lips against his chest. Are you referring to this? Mo Ting quietly washed away the fishy smell on his hands in the sink before hugging Tongning tightly. Are you planning to give me a dessert before dinner? Tongning's fingers circled around inside Mo Ting's shirt. Then, do you think it's sweet? Mo Ting lost his breath as he pulled Tongning out from under his shirt, lifted her chin and forcefully kissed her. You will know how sweet it is once you eat it. Mo Ting loved Tongning's ever-changing attitude when it came to this. It was completely different from her usual meek self. Sometimes she was seductive, sometimes she was gentle, sometimes she was indulgent, and sometimes she was open. All of these made him want to devour her completely. As their tongues danced, their breathing became flirtatious, making the dinner even more interesting. Especially when Mo Ting touched Tongning's leg. He thought, after preparing for a few days, it was time to deliver another surprise to her. By the time dinner was ready, it was already 2 hours later. As Long Jia looked at the sumptuous feast in front of her, she was beyond shocked. She had never imagined the almighty CEO of Hai Rui, the big boss of the entertainment industry, could cook without any hesitation. No wonder Tongning was so obedient to him. Thank you, big boss, for your reward. Put away the urge to auction off the food on your plate. Tongning couldn't help but laugh. How did you know? Tongning, I am so happy. Long Jia rubbed her head against Tongning's arm. But, you and big boss have been in the kitchen for 2 hours. What have you two been doing? Hurry up and eat. After dinner, there is one more thing we need to do tonight. Mo Ting quickly diverted their attention. What is it? Tongning asked curiously. You will know when the time comes. Mo Ting patted her head lovingly. Long Jia and Lin Wei felt their blood run cold. From their point of view, apart from Mo Ting, there was no one else in this world that could make Tongning so obedient and look up to him. However, an even more unexpected surprise was yet to come. Chapter 43. After dinner, Mo Ting brought Tongning to the hall of the manor. At this time, there were already a few American men gathered there. Tongning didn't understand Mo Ting's intention, but Mo Ting simply comforted her. Don't be nervous. Not long after, the American man approached Mo Ting to talk to him. At this time, Tongning finally understood their conversation and understood Mo Ting's intention. He wanted to buy insurance for her legs. It wasn't anything new for famous celebrities to buy insurance for their bodies, but most of them did it for the sake of creating hype. So Tongning quickly grabbed onto Mo Ting. Mo Ting, I don't need it. Don't think too much about it. You need to take good care of your legs. They are the most beautiful pair of legs I've seen on the runway. But Tongning was still a little hesitant. Listen to me. Mo Ting pushed her towards the appraiser. You don't want me to do anything for you. Are you going to refuse to buy insurance for you? Tongning was helpless. Although her legs were beautiful, she wasn't that famous at the moment, so the estimated price shouldn't be too expensive. Thinking of this, Tongning let him do as he pleased and allowed the appraiser to measure. However, before the appraiser could give a price, Mo Ting directly said, no matter what the final price is, I will increase the insurance amount by 10 times. If that was the case, it would cost over 100 million. Lin Wei and Long Jia, who were standing silently to one side, were so shocked that their mouths were about to be filled with eggs. Most importantly, Mo Ting wasn't doing this for the sake of creating hype. He simply wanted to buy insurance for Tongning, because the ultimate beneficiary of this insurance was Tongning. From now on, no matter what happened to her legs, she would receive compensation from the insurance company. Wasn't this a little too much? Tongning did not say a word the entire time. Her heart was a little confused. However, Mo Ting wrapped his arm around her shoulder and said, in this complicated industry, there are many uncertainties and uncertainties. I can't guarantee that in 10 or 20 years, Hai Rui will still be as glorious as it is today. So I want to do my best to give you a little more stability. I want your future path to be filled with security. In that case, why didn't you buy insurance for yourself? Tongning's tears uncontrollably rolled down her cheeks. Mo Ting leaned over and laughed beside her ear. Because I don't have legs as beautiful as yours. At this moment, within the brightly lit living room, all Tongning could see was the Mo Ting, who had sacrificed so much for her without asking for anything in return. She had married him with a motive, but he had never cared about the gains or losses. In fact, he had given her his full trust. Do you know how many vows you'll make me swear in my heart by doing this? What? Don't ever leave this man unless I die, Tongning said in seriousness. Mo Ting smiled with his usual elegance and charm. As long as he felt it was worth it, no matter how much he had to sacrifice, he was willing to do it without any regrets. Tongning was the first person he had ever met that could make him sacrifice without asking for anything in return. This was how the world worked. There were people who trampled on your heart, and there were also people who treated you like a treasure. Therefore, you should never be sad for a scumbag. As long as you were outstanding and hardworking enough, there would always be people more outstanding than you, who were willing to give you the warmth you wanted. Tongning is now very valuable. Long Jie whispered to Lin Wei. Over $100 million in insurance. That's enough to buy the entire Tianyi. Right now, I really want to tell that scumbag Han Yufan to thank you for not marrying him. Long Jie winked at Lin Wei. Tell him to hug that shameless B-grade model and scram as far away as he can. Han Yufan must have never imagined, while he was racking his brain trying to think of a way to deal with Tongning, someone was willing to give her $100 million insurance policy. Indeed, with Secrets magazine shoot around the corner, Han Yufan was constantly in touch with the domestic media to ensure Mo Euro's exposure. Every day, he would release a press release. If it wasn't better than anyone, it was better than anyone else. Her exposure continued to skyrocket. In comparison, when they released the same press release, there were only a few mentions of Tongning, and they were all mixed in with news about Mo Euro. Because of this, the fans began to panic. The official fan club approached Lin Wei a few times to ask about Tongning's situation, but Tongning always made a shushing gesture. Lin Wei understood what she meant. Secrets magazine was only a third-rate brand overseas. There was no need to make such a big deal out of it. It would make them appear short-sighted. So Lin Wei simply replied with 3 words, trust Tongning. Because of these 3 words, Tongning's fans were suddenly comforted. They remembered how Tongning had always kept a low profile. No matter what happened, no matter good or bad, she always knew what she wanted and had her own plans. President Han Euro's popularity has increased once again. Mo Euro's assistant looked at the comments on the webpage and reported. What about the ones mentioning Tongning? Han Yufan asked. This is all thanks to Wuxia Jie's PR skills. We used Tongning to raise her popularity, then used an A-list celebrity to raise her value. Naturally, we didn't need to mention Tongning in our press releases. Although we were at odds with the fans of other media outlets, Tongning's popularity was still a far cry from Euro's. It's the press release that worked. Han Wuxia looked at the route she had planned for Mo Euro and said coldly, right now, we have control of the topic in our popularity. But if we want to beat Tongning, we still need to see the results of Secret's shoot. If Euro's press release is as good as this, then after returning to China, Tongning will have nothing to do with us. I have confidence, Mo Euro assured everyone. I've seen Tongning's shows before. I don't think I'm any worse than her. Don't forget, she has been my body double a few times. Of course, she had no idea. In order to imitate her, Tongning had lowered her standards by quite a few levels. As for the photographer, I will contact the PR department. When you do the cover shoot, I will try to make sure you are the main focus. Euro, you need to think about how to present the Oriental trend theme. I will think about it. This is your first time sharing the stage with Tongning. You should know, this doesn't only affect you. If you lose, the entire Tianyi will be humiliated along with you and Yufan will be questioned by others. So you have to win this battle. Han Wuxia reminded Mo Euro in seriousness. Yesterday, Tongning humiliated you guys in such a way. I will definitely help you get back at her. Mo Euro said confidently. Mo Euro said confidently. Her rising popularity in China had given her a lot of confidence. Tomorrow, it was time for her and Tongning to fight to the death. Chapter 44. Mo Euro PK Tongning, New Goddess vs Popular Supermodel. Tongning and Mo Euro competing in the same frame. This was the hottest topic that Long Jie saw on the morning of the magazine shoot. Of course, they knew this was Han Wuxia's way of helping Mo Euro gain popularity. This was how the internet worked. Just yesterday, Mo Euro was a mistress and a slut in the eyes of netizens. Today, she had become a goddess in their hearts and the best model in their eyes. However, the entertainment industry was this realistic. No one could predict what would happen to them tomorrow. But without a doubt, Tianyi's investment in Mo Euro was 100%. Before the magazine shoot had even started, Mo Euro's support team had already arrived at the entrance of Secret's headquarters. In order to help Mo Euro gain popularity, the jerk has brought out all his skills. I heard before the shoot, there will be an interview about the two of you. Long Jie looked at the photos online with disdain. At the same time, she revealed a sense of worry. Tongning, are you really not going to do anything? Look at Mo Euro. Not only does she publish 3 articles a day, she even interacts with her fans and supports her. She is being treated like an international superstar. She has already defeated the most popular international supermodel. It's normal for her to be treated like this. Tongning sat in the car and casually flipped through the past issues of Secrets magazine. Today, you guys need to learn how to praise others more. It's a good opportunity to raise your standards. Praise what? Long Jie didn't understand what Tongning meant, but Lin Wei reacted quickly. She turned her head and reminded Long Jie. Did you forget what Tongning said last night? Long Jie thought for a moment and finally remembered. Oh, right, praise to death. This was a very common tactic in the industry. Management companies often used it to teach a lesson to those artists who became arrogant after gaining a bit of fame. They would push them to the top, making them feel that they were the strongest in the universe, and at the same time, let others think that they were the best in the world. Then, they would let them fall from the top, letting them see that they were just ants. Since Mo Euro wanted to be number 1 in the world so badly, then let her be. Han Ruoxua had already made enough enemies for her. Of course, Han Ruoxua's intention was to warn Mo Euro that she could only rely on Tianyi and not think about finding someone else to rely on once she became famous. For Mo Euro, Han Ruoxua has put in a lot of effort. Unfortunately, Mo Euro's ability cannot support her ambition. Whether or not I can afford it, we'll know after the magazine shoot. Tongning remained as calm as still water. This was her normal state after separating from Mo Ting. No one could tell what she was thinking from her expression. This smile of hers was a mask that resisted all pretense from the outside world. Not long after, the group arrived at Secret's headquarters. Tongning was invited to the waiting room prepared by the magazine. Of course, this was to be shared by her and Mo Euro. Secret's fashion designer quickly measured Tongning's body size and was amazed by her beautiful legs. Afterwards, she placed a traditional Eastern dress in front of her. With your temperament, I think lighter-colored clothes are more suitable for you. Tongning smiled without commenting on the designer's suggestion. It was probably because they were in a different industry. They had different understandings. But Long Jie couldn't help but interrupt. Our Tongning can handle any type of clothing. She doesn't need to be picky. At this moment, Mo Euro entered the waiting room accompanied by her assistant. Seeing Tongning sitting in front of the mirror, she angrily walked over to Tongning. Her expression was arrogant as she grabbed the lipstick from Tongning's hands and said to her, "It must be because you're used to being a stunt double, so you don't have the right to choose your clothes. That's why you've forgotten what it means to be picky." After speaking, Mo Euro walked over to the clothes rack and pointed to a few outfits. She said to the designer, "I want to try these outfits on." Mo Euro was indeed good at picking out clothes because she understood her advantages. As for Tongning, she indeed didn't know how to pick out clothes because, for her, clothes were something she should be able to handle and something she should be able to display. In this world, fashion shows weren't designed for a certain model. During the runway, it didn't matter if the clothes were suitable or not. For an event like that, it was all about what to wear and what to display, regardless of whether it was suitable or not. So when it came to every piece of clothing, she had her own unique way of expressing herself. Our Euro isn't like those outdated models. In this industry, wearing clothes is a form of attitude. How can you be so casual? Mo Euro's assistant also chimed in. No matter what a mistress wears, isn't it the emperor's new outfit? In a man's eyes, no matter what you wear, you will always be naked. What's the point of choosing something that looks good? Tongning smiled calmly. In this world, the tolerance for men and women is different. Mo Euro, do you still not understand this? Euro, don't be angry. It's not worth it if you hurt your health, her assistant comforted. The interview is about to start, let's hurry out and get ready. Tongning turned her head and glanced at Lin Wei and Long Jie before saying in a low voice, "Let's go too." The interview was scheduled for 9 p.m., but it was already 8:40 p.m. As the interview was being broadcast live, Han Yufan pulled the two to one side and reminded them, "In a situation like this, you need to think before you speak. I'm sure you know what to say and what not to say. Especially Tongning. You need to put away your hatred today, because this is a live broadcast. If you say anything bad, the consequences are not something we can imagine, and it may not be a good thing for you either. As for the topic of sharing the stage, you need to think of an answer in advance. Try your best to divert everyone's attention to the front cover of the magazine. Don't worry, Yufan. I just don't know if other people have ulterior motives," Mo Yuro said as she hooked her arm around Han Yufan's. "I will cooperate fully," Tongning replied calmly. But, after the past few incidents, Han Yufan was a little afraid of Tongning's calmness. The more calm she was, the more it meant she had a lot on her mind. He really wanted to know what Tongning was thinking at this moment. "Yufan, let's go in." Mo Yuro couldn't stand Han Yufan staring at Tongning for so long, so she shook his arm. Han Yufan looked at Tongning with a warning gaze. As long as she was obedient today, in the future, if Mo Yuro made a comeback, perhaps he would give her a way out. The three of them entered the prearranged interview room one after another. However, only Tongning and Mo Yuro sat down on the chairs Secret had prepared for them. Han Yufan quietly stood behind the media. If Tongning made any mistakes, he would be able to stop her in time. But today Tongning did not act normally. Chapter 45. I am very happy to be able to interview the two Asian beauties today. Welcome Tongning, welcome Mo Yuro. The reporters greeted the two in fluent English. At this moment, Mo Yuro had a translator on her ear, so it took her a few seconds to react. So, she could only greet everyone in Chinese. Meanwhile, Tongning greeted the reporters in fluent English. In an instant, the distance between her and the reporters became closer. In that case, the two of you have been using the topic of competing on the same stage to increase your popularity. I would like to ask the two of you, what are your thoughts on this collaboration? Hearing the reporter ask such a sharp question, Han Yufan was afraid Tongning would say something embarrassing. But Tongning maintained her smile as she replied, "I respect every job I do. This is my attitude." "Me too." Mo Yuro followed Tongning's lead and answered with little effort. "In that case, what do you think of each other?" Another sharp question. Han Yufan broke out in a cold sweat. At this time, if Tongning wanted to step on Mo Yuro like she did on the commercial stage, there was nothing he could do to stop her. But who would have thought, after thinking for a while, Tongning finally replied with two words: confidence. This confidence may seem like a compliment, but in reality, Tongning was being sarcastic. Mo Yuro had always had a good sense of herself, so at this moment, Mo Yuro decided to use this to her advantage. She assumed Tongning was praising her, so her expression became even more arrogant, and she looked down on Tongning even more. After all, in a situation like this, Tongning had no choice but to cooperate obediently. Han Yufan let out a sigh of relief. The host looked at Mo Yuro again. Originally, she thought she would give the best response, but she actually said something shocking. "In my eyes, the Tongning is not humble enough." Not humble enough. Hearing this, Han Yufan's arms loosened. He almost rushed onto the stage. Was Mo Yuro stupid? Or was it because the press releases over the past 2 days had praised her too much? She was truly unrestrained. She used her to compare herself to others, because she knew there was no chance of working with her. But now that she and Tongning were about to shoot a magazine together, the results would be immediate. Why didn't she know to leave herself a way out? Everyone was shocked by Mo Yuro's answer. They had never seen such an arrogant model. At the same time, they felt this model's EQ was in the negative. Thinking about it this way, Tongning's confident reply was indeed flawless and had a deeper meaning. The host froze for a moment, unsure of how to resolve the situation. Tongning took the opportunity to change the topic and help the reporter out. "Miss Mo is a model that can appear on the same page as Senior Hua. I indeed have a long way to go. I still have a lot to learn." The Senior Hua, that Tongning was referring to was the supermodel that had appeared on the Victoria's Secret stage, Jingjing. Most of the reporters were familiar with her, but they could tell that Tongning was just being polite. Otherwise, why would Mo Euro still be working for a third-rate magazine? However, Mo Euro smiled confidently, especially after being praised by Tongning. She felt like she was on cloud nine. In that case, Miss Mo's strength is also extraordinary. The reporters looked at Mo Euro gratefully. Of course, their words couldn't be any more half-hearted as they complimented Mo Euro. During the short 20-minute interview, Han Yufan stood at the side, trembling in fear. Originally, he was worried about Tongning, but Mo Euro's performance today completely disappointed him. Euro, why did you step on Tongning during the interview? Han Yufan asked angrily after the interview was over. Yufan, why are you speaking up for Tongning again? This was the perfect opportunity to show Tongning who she was. So of course I wouldn't let it go. I've already suffered so much because of her. I need to get back at her. Not too far away, Tongning watched the two argue with a smile on her face. This smile made Han Yufan feel even more uneasy. Don't tell me, in your heart, I'm really worse than Tongning and Jingjing. Han Yufan helplessly comforted Mo Euro. In the end, he placed his hand on his forehead. At times Mo Euro was smart. But at times like this, she was extremely stupid. Especially after someone praised her. That's why Tongning said she was confident. That's enough. Go in and prepare for the shoot. This is only one battle. You can only win, you can't lose. Otherwise, you won't have a chance at the top 10 model awards. Han Yufan reminded Mo Euro. Don't worry. Mo Euro was confident she would win. Meanwhile, on the other side of the phone, Mo Ting gave Tongning a phone call. I've seen the interview just now. I also asked Lu Che to send it to Jingjing. Jingjing doesn't really care about things like this. After all, she's always been compared to her. So she handed it over to the legal department to handle. That's right. Jingjing was currently assigned model for Hairui fashion. The husband and wife were both black-bellied. Couldn't a B-grade model have some self-awareness? If she doesn't know when to stop and insists on putting herself on such a high pedestal, then she will have a taste of being randomly picked on. You're really? Since she has the guts to bully my wife, then she will have to face the consequences. Tongning, apart from you, I am not a kind person. A man that could control the life and death of the entertainment industry was definitely not an ordinary person. So Tongning was already prepared for this. All you saw was her bullying me. Tongning was helpless. She had already forced Mo Euro into such a desperate situation. Why didn't this man say anything? I'll come pick you up after your shoot. Mo Ting chuckled. His wife always did the right thing. He had to support her no matter what she did. Tongning also smiled and nodded her head. She had no way of resisting Mo Ting's thoughtfulness. Afterwards, accompanied by Lin Wei and Long Jie, she entered the waiting room to get changed. As it was a double cover, in terms of style, there wasn't much difference between the two of them. This made it certain that this magazine shoot was a test of a model's professionalism. Of course, the two were thinking of using the other as a foil, but how were they going to do this? Naturally, it all depended on their skills. No matter when Tongning wasn't filming, she was always quiet and didn't speak much. This further highlighted Mo Euro's arrogance. She felt Tongning was timid, and she was the one in control of the scene. As the theme was the Oriental trend, the two were dressed in traditional tops and skirts. Their tops were buttoned up and embroidered on the sleeves. Their waists were adorned with a delicate orchid that extended all the way to their collarbones. Their bottoms were simple yet elegant dresses with similarly stunning embroidery. Just by looking at their tops, Tongning was like a blank piece of paper. She was still in the closing stage. As for Mo Euro, it was possible to see the gentleness of an ancient woman. Chapter 46. The makeup artist and other staff complimented Mo Euro endlessly on how beautiful she was because her personality was outstanding. She was charming and full of energy. On the other hand, when Tongning wasn't working, she was quiet and didn't like to talk. With this type of personality, especially when compared to Mo Euro, it was easy to overlook her beauty and spirituality. Miss Mo, since your makeup is complete, please enter the studio to take your solo photo. As the inner pages of the magazine still had a section for a single person, Mo Euro entered the studio before Tongning. However, as she stood up from the makeup mirror, her eyes were filled with provocation and confidence. This was something that Tongning did not have. So, from a professional point of view, the staff had more trust in Mo Euro. Inside the studio, the set had already been set up. Underneath the retro wooden window was an old table. On top of the table was a luxurious blue and white porcelain vase. Inside the vase was a pink rose in full bloom. Next to the table was an armchair. Mo Euro's task was to sit on this armchair and complete her shoot. As soon as the photographer saw Mo Euro enter the studio, he was indeed captivated by her makeup. For a beautiful Asian woman like her, all she had to do was sit on the chair, and she would be as beautiful as a painting. If she presented a more professional attitude, this issue of the Oriental trend was bound to attract a huge reaction in Europe and the US. I heard this model is comparable to Hu Jingjing, the photographer's assistant praised. She must have a strong foundation. I think there's a lot of hope. The tall and handsome photographer reminded everyone to get into position and kindly told Mo Euro that they were about to start. Mo Euro had a strong desire to win, so she understood. Not only did she have to put in effort for the shoot with Tongning, she also had to take her own solo photos seriously. Let's start with a side profile. The photographer reminded Mo Euro. Through the translator, Mo Euro understood what the photographer wanted, so she immediately turned her body sideways and placed her right hand on the back of the chair. Her left hand gracefully rested on top of her dress, revealing only the left side of her delicate face. However, there was a charming smile on her face. The photographer frowned. He wanted Eastern beauties, not Eastern functions women. The photographer took a photo of the scene just now. He felt the model wasn't in the right state of mind yet, so he asked her to express the intellectual beauty of an Asian woman. He then handed her a basket used by women in ancient times. This time, Mo Euro sat up straight. The angle was correct, but she had her head lowered. The photographer could only see her broad forehead. After taking a few more shots, the photographer's expression turned ugly. How could this be a professional model that could rival Hu Jingjing? Most importantly, throughout the entire filming process, although Mo Euro's personality stood out, she only had one smile and one expression. The photographer did not say a word. He was still in the midst of completing his task. Meanwhile, after Mo Euro finished her shoot, she confidently asked the photographer how she had done. The photographer did not say a word, but the assistant beside him quickly gave Mo Euro a thumbs up. Very good. Mo Euro smiled proudly. Under her exquisite makeup, her lack of self-awareness made her look extremely annoying. Bah! The photographer scoffed from behind her, but he did not let her see him. Afterwards, he asked his assistant, "Is there another one?" However, just as he finished speaking, the gentle Tongning entered the studio and greeted the cameraman. Her smile did not seem to be trying to please him, nor did it seem distant. However, the photographer was not in a good mood after seeing Mo Euro's photos, so his reaction towards Tongning was calm. He thought to himself, although the previous woman wasn't very professional, at least she had a bright personality. On the other hand, the one in front of him was quiet and inflexible, so his attitude towards Tongning was very casual. He casually prepared and casually started the shoot. He did not give Tongning any restrictions. He simply gave her a few fixed themes. I really don't know how these women deserve to be called models. The photographer's assistant did not have high hopes for Tongning. The first theme was the gentleness of an Asian woman. The photographer was not worried that Tongning would not be able to express herself. As long as she acted herself, she would be able to do a great job. However, to his surprise, Tongning did not need to use any techniques. All she needed to do was maintain her original posture. She simply sat on the armchair. It was a simple action, but she added her most precious element, her gaze. Unlike the calmness from before, Tongning was now looking straight ahead. Her eyes were bright and clear, with a layer of mist and a slight tinge of red. It was like she had seen her true love, but she could only try her best to hold it in. This was the reserved nature of an Asian woman. Most importantly, not only did Tongning stand out with her eyes, she also led the onlookers to follow her emotions and place their attention on the clothes she was wearing. It was like she had meticulously dressed up for the person she loved, only to find that the person she loved was already with someone else. So, she felt her dressing up like this was asking to be humiliated. It was ridiculous. The combination of emotions and scenery, the expression in her eyes, and the item on display. Oh God. The photographer was about to go crazy. So during the shoot he repeatedly said, "Perfect." He had never seen such a professional model before. His heart was about to explode from excitement. In just a short 5 seconds, Tongning had managed to convey a story. Most importantly, this story was related to the clothes she was wearing. This was what a professional model should do. No matter how beautiful she was merely an accessory to the item on display. Most models were able to show off their clothes, but how many were able to become one with the clothes? This time, the photographer was excited. He felt his photography skills had finally reached a point where he could showcase his skills. Most importantly, Tongning was a model that knew how to choose her own angles. She didn't need to be reminded too much. Her casual pose was exactly what you needed. It was exactly what you couldn't bear to delete. Thinking about it this way compared to Tongning, the model just now paled in comparison. What was a vase? What was a model? The difference between them was like heaven and earth. Afterwards, the photographer asked Tongning to make a few more poses. What surprised him the most was, no matter what he asked of Tongning, she was able to respond within a second. Whether it was a flirtatious look, a sad look, a pretty daughter from a humble family, or a seductive young married woman, she was able to use her eyes and small details to make him clap his hands in amazement. A model like this was the true Oriental trend. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.